Hello. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Lincoln Calling's Stream-a-thon and this afternoon's Wellness Workshop series. We are so grateful for you to be gathered with us here virtually. We are here celebrating Give to Lincoln Month by sharing with you all of the music, art, and education that we would normally share with you in person, but we are doing it here virtually, socially distanced, to keep everyone safe. We are gathered here so that we can engage in community and share, as well as support the community that enriches us. So today we'll be talking about Give to Lincoln. If you can support Lincoln Calling at any amount, we are so incredibly grateful. We are able to give that money right back to the artists, the musicians, and the educators that make this community amazing. So consider giving to Lincoln, going to givetolincoln.com and supporting Lincoln Calling. Before we begin our afternoon of workshop series, I'd like to give a brief land acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge that this conversation is taking place on the past, present, and future homelands of the Ponca, Usniponca, Juwer and Natuchi, Umahon, Dakota and Lakota, Hino no Eino, Ka, Tzitzita's, and Sotahahi peoples, as well as those of the relocated Ho-Chunk, Nimahahaki, and Baksoje peoples. We acknowledge that our coming together here does not usurp or counter any past, present, or future claims of Natives peoples also to this space, and that it behooves us to know on whose lands we temporarily convene. With that, I want to welcome our first guest, Kat Weise. Kat Weise is the community arts organizer for the Lincoln South of Downtown Community Development Organization. She's based at the South of Downtown Art Hub, and the South of Downtown organization is an organization dedicated to enhancing the vibrancy of Lincoln's Near South neighborhood. She's going to get into more of that soon. Today, Kat's going to lead us through a demonstration on gratitude drawing. So get your materials ready and get ready to have a good time. Welcome, Kat.
Hi. It's great to be here.
Thank you for being here.
Yes. So I work for South of Downtown Community Development Organization, and we're based in the Near South and Everett neighborhoods. And I kind of have done a recent experiment on gratitude at the micro and macro scale. I've been thinking about, since the pandemic, what is around me that I can really appreciate right now, whether that's my favorite coffee cup or my favorite building in the neighborhood, or if it's even something smaller like a pattern. And so that's kind of what we're exploring today. I first wanted to show you guys some examples. So this is sort of my macro large scale example, which is thinking about my neighborhood. What am I grateful for in my neighborhood? So I have affordable housing over here. I have historic homes, diversity, and these are examples of specific people. And so this is something we did for our Give to Lincoln Day fundraiser that I wanted to share with you guys as sort of an example of a macro level way of being grateful. And then I wanted to share a sort of smaller example as well. Normally when I'm traveling, which I planned on doing a lot this year and obviously didn't happen, I will take time to draw the people that are with me or the things that I see, whether that's like a light post or a coffee cup or whatever it is. I really like drawing cups, which I've mentioned a couple times now. And since the pandemic, like I said, I've been trying gratitude drawings for things that are with me now here because I'm not going to be traveling. And so this is something I made just like right where I met. It's a drawing of a barrage plant, which I grew from seed. And I thought about, as I was drawing it, sort of that growing process and the small, wonderful things that happen within that. And my last example, which is like a micro scale example of a gratitude drawing, is this pattern. So it doesn't have to be representational. What you're drawing does not have to be objective. It can be abstract. It can be whatever you want it to be. So that being said, I just want to establish that this is a non-judgmental space, okay? We are going to I just want you to take a second, breathe, and I want you to let go of any judgment you have about your own drawing ability. You can be here at whatever level you're at because this time is really for you to think about what you care about and what you appreciate right now. So I'm just going to take one more breath with that. Okay. I wanted to share with you guys some materials that I'm using in my more like professional artistic practice. You can see I'm making oil paintings and wood blocks using carving tools and like a lot of different painting mediums. But for me, drawing is a more personal practice. It's something I do for myself most of the time. And so I just have some materials here that I enjoy. I got these from Gomez Art Supply, which I love. I have some Conte chalk. It's like a very dense chalk. And it comes in all these different colors. I have greens and blues and stuff. And then I also have some colored pencils as well. And these are Prismacolors, which are really nice and smooth. So that's what I'm working with today. You can work with highlighters. I actually love using highlighters and markers and all kinds of materials. So don't feel like there's any one material that you have to use. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw some patterns. If you're a person that has anxiety, a lot of times folks will tell you to think about 3 things that you can smell, think about 3 things that you can hear, and 3 things that you can see. And it's a sort of grounding practice. So that's what I'm going to do. And what I invite you to do is to do a little grounding practice through observing patterns, which are kind of like a micro way of appreciating. So I'm going to be drawing on this big pad so you guys can see it a little better. Might just drag it a little closer. And I'm going to draw a pattern. So I'm going to start with just like even my box of Conte has a nice pattern. So I'm going to draw that maybe with a blue. So I can just see some sort of lines here. I'm going to draw those. Again, no judgment. I'm not going to try and make this perfect. But there's also like an angle. There's like a little pattern. We're going to do this for 5 minutes, and then we're going to switch to something else too. I want you to draw, see if you can draw like 5 patterns in 5 minutes. It's kind of, so just kind of quick. Using whatever feels nice to you. I might make the little dark spots in between my pencils here. I think the next thing I'm going to draw are my floorboards, which have like a nice sort of almost like a brickwork pattern. So I'm going to do a lot of lines, but you can also see patterns in plants and the texture of your wall even. My wall has lots of texture because my house must be 100 or 20. So I'm going to kind of play with angles, and I might try to do a pattern within a pattern, like maybe my floorboards come up from here to make another sort of pattern. Also, I was going to do one set of patterns, but when I was planning this out, and then I was like, no, I'm just going to wing it because all of you are winging it. We're going to wing it together. It's great. Let's do it. So I can kind of see that the boards are staggered, and I'm not really looking very closely. Like I'm really just sort of seeing like, oh, there's a break in between the other boards. And this one has like, I might draw a little wood grain just loosely, just for fun. I feel like I'm Bob Ross right now. I'm really enjoying this. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Yeah. So I'm going to do this for a couple more minutes. See, now it's going, I want to draw a little faster. I want to get something out. So I might go a little quicker. Let me know in the comments, is there something specific you're drawing or something specific you're grateful for that you're making a drawing of? Now I'm just having fun. I kind of want to, I have this thing. It's so yellow. This is also a Conte pastel, and it's so pretty. So I'm just going to do that just to satisfy my heart. So here's that. I want to add some contrast to my drawing. A lot of people know my work because I tend to draw quite representationally. I tend to draw things that really exist, but I really enjoy drawing it in the abstract or abstracting real things. And it's something I do more in my personal work than in like stuff I'm trying to share it in shows and whatnot. So it's nice to have some space to do this looser, more meditative work. Also, yeah, if you're somebody that makes work more professionally, I would encourage you to not use the kinds of materials you would use in your professional practice right now. Just use something fun. Just have fun with it. Oh, I like how these floorboards are turning out. So I'm going to keep going. And I know we're going to switch to another one after this. So I have to like pause myself and just stop. Don't have too much fun, Kat. Come on. You're the instructor. Get it together. So. I'd love to hear from other folks what materials you're using. Is there something fun that you pulled out that you haven't used in a while? Or is this your first time using a material? Let me know in the comments. Or is there something that you always use when you're drawing? I think that's fun to know too. So again, this is supposed to be wood and the lines of my Conte pencils. I might try and throw in one more pattern that's less like line based just for funsies, and then we'll switch to something else in probably 2 minutes. Again, this doesn't have to look resolved. I'm actually just going to, because my page is so big, I'm actually going to just be adding most of my drawings to this one page. I need to find one more pattern. So, and you can kind of blow up something that you see that's small like this is the texture of the Conte pad that I could draw like little holes in that, but I can also see my grate for like a vent across the room. So I'm going to draw some of those real quick just for another texture that's more unique than the others. I'm just using all the colors. I love colors. I love patterns, as you can probably tell from this quick peek inside my studio. Yeah, I have a little home studio that I'm at right now, and that's where we're working today. Yeah, this grate that I'm drawing is also probably as old as my house or my apartment, which is like over 100. So it has this really beautiful like hexagonal pattern. I think that's a hexagon. Okay. I'm going to draw one more, call it good, move on to the next thing. So yeah, it's fun. It's loose. We got it. We did it. So the next thing I want to do is I want you to think of a word. Think of a word or identify an object that's in the room around you that you're grateful for. Okay, so I brought this cup with me, and one of my good friends gave me this cup on my 21st birthday a number of years ago. And it has like all these little dimples on it. And so there's a sensory experience related to holding it, the warmth of the cup, the dimples on the cup, the smell of whatever it is I'm drinking. So I want you to identify an object. It could be something simple. It could be a cloud. It could be a leaf. It could be your pencil that you're drawing or your own hand. I don't care. Whatever it is, find something you're grateful for. And we're going to draw that thing for 5 minutes. We're just going to draw it, but without, this is where I'm pulling one on you a little bit. We're going to draw it without drawing it observationally. We're going to draw it thinking about the experience of it rather than what it actually looks like. So think about, again, textures, smells. Think about, does the experience feel like it's more of a warm color? Does it feel like it's more of a cold color? Is it something fast-paced? Would you use like chattery marks, like lots of small marks? Or is it more fluid? So maybe you'll use long marks, or maybe you'll make wider strokes. So coming on this journey with me, just doing a little experimenting. So again, I have this cup, and I'm going to think about how this cup makes me feel. So I definitely feel calm when I have it, and I find like yellow or warm colors to be very calming, soothing. Sorry about that noise. So I dropped my Conte. We're just going to grab that real quick. Oops. I know I'm really soothing right now, so I'm sorry about that. One sec. Okay. No worries. There's that. Okay. So I'm going to make some wide, smooth marks. Again, this is about the feeling that my favorite coffee cup gives me. I also think is like of like round shapes as being very open, very like wholesome. I don't know. So I'm gonna make some round shapes. Ooh, I like that. Now I'm just that's a wonderful effect. We're gonna keep doing that. It makes me feel very alive, which is because it normally has coffee in it. So I'm gonna add some greens, which are obviously very indicative of liveliness. It's spring, very springy color. This is delightful. I haven't used these in so long. It makes me really, really happy. I hope you guys are feeling really, really happy too. Also, if you get carried away with what you're doing and you don't want to move on to the next exercise we're going to do, feel free to stay or use whatever makes sense to you. Don't feel like you have to stay in any one box just because I'm about to do that. That could make a cool, like a staggered fan pattern. Ooh, I'm gonna try that. I'm just gonna be quiet for a little bit. Let you guys draw independently for a couple minutes. I'm probably not going to have room for the last thing I want to do if I keep filling it up like this. But that's okay, because I have more sheets of paper. So, yeah. Oh, Isabel thinks I'm going to be the next Bob Ross. Thank you, Isabel. I love Bob Ross. I have enough curls on my head. I might be able to do that. My husband was actually Bob Ross a couple years ago for Halloween. It was so adorable, but he has a germo, like a German afro. It's definitely not going to be as effective, I think, for the Bob Ross aesthetic, but that's okay. Okay. Let's do this for one more minute. Just kind of get yourself to a stopping place, and we're going to do the next exercise, which is an observation drawing. I'm adding these kind of stronger lines because I think about the sort of focus of the experience I have, like the concentration and the flow state that I get in. when I'm having my morning cup of coffee. So I'm really sharing the experience rather than the concrete object. Okay, so come to a stopping place, and now we're going to draw the concrete object. But before you get kind of, oh no, I'm like not good enough to do that, or before you get too judgmental, take a breath. Okay, so again, this is a non-judgmental space. We're banning erasers. None of that. We don't want any of that. So this is not going to be what you think it's going to be. We're going to do, it's called a blind contour drawing. And we did this a lot when I was in school. So you're going to get whatever mark making utensil you want to use. I'm going to use this because it's nice and sharp and they can make some nice lines. This is kind of an experiment where the making of the lines themselves, to see those lines is kind of nice. So if you are using a really thick marker, I might switch to something a little thinner at this point. So I'm going to use this pencil. And what we're going to do is we're not going to look at our paper at all. We're only going to look at the thing that we're observing, because drawing is first and foremost a practice in seeing rather than a practice in like how much hand control you have. That doesn't matter. We're here to think about how beautiful and how intimate and how detailed this object is in front of us, okay? So get into that headspace. We're there. We're doing that. I have my cup right next to my easel here. So I'm going to not look at my paper. If you see me looking at it, just tell me off, okay? So I'm only looking at the cup. You guys are about to see me make a very weird drawing. I might even block my face so I don't cheat. Oh wait, I cheated already. Okay. I'm gonna just start with this little handle, drawing the lip of the cup. And this cup, I really love that it has such a wide lip. It's a very like inviting, kind of open shape. Okay, so I drew this kind of basic outline, or so I think I have. I can't see it, so I don't know. Now I'm gonna draw the shadow underneath the cup. I'm gonna think about that inner curve of the cup here. I'm gonna try and draw the shadows inside the cup now. I'm gonna draw my coffee. Now I'm gonna draw the pattern on the cup. This is where it's about to get really weird, okay? Oh no, I'm already nervous. I'm letting go of judgment, I swear. I'm letting go of judgment. I'm gonna stop talking, okay? I'm probably distracting you. I think pretty soon we're gonna pause on this and do a little Q&A. So maybe I'll do this for one more minute and then we'll
Kat,
move on.
I'm peeking over your virtual shoulder. You are super welcome to keep drawing. Don't look.
Okay.
This looks awesome. I'm forever in awe of your ability. What do you think? Oh no, this is judgment free.
It's judgment free though. It was fun. I really enjoyed making it. It was like the most peaceful I've been this whole workshop, I think, with just there in the present. So yeah,
I love it. It's very modernist, Cy Twombly, Cubist, Picasso. Yes, very, very good.
Okay, that.
Kat, I wanted to ask you, how did you develop gratitude drawing as a concept?
Yes, it was literally a pandemic invoked concept, and it's something that I think I've been doing for a while and many artists do, but I didn't put words to until the pandemic, when I realized that part of what I love about traveling is drawing and slowing down and taking that time to observe and really notice things, which I realized I don't practice as much in my daily life. And so I thought I need to bring some of that travel energy into my home and into my space. And so that's what it came out of.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. I wanted to ask you a few questions about south of downtown. Tell us a little bit about the ways in which that organization fosters community normally, and maybe how you've pivoted in recent times.
Yeah, so I just want to give a very open acknowledgement of like a lot of these concepts, or not a lot of them, but a number of them, and this idea of taking space to do like peaceful art was something that happened in one of our classes at South of Downtown, which was an open studio class with Andrea Jenkins. It was an adult oriented class, and this is something we have been doing regularly since we started, is offering spaces for people to come together and learn and hang out and chat. And it's something that we're doing now as well during the pandemic, is we're offering virtual workshops. And this year we're really focused on creative placemaking and community building and using our workshops for that purpose. So we have a yarn storming sit and knit workshop that we're doing right now, where we're just like hanging out and knitting. And then those things will go on alleys along 11th Street to sort of make them more welcoming, in conjunction with like a alley entrance painting competition that we're doing. So creative placemaking is a huge part of my role, organizing murals, organizing community art projects that are stimulated by the needs of our neighbors rather than sort of, I have this great idea. So that's the way that we're approaching our work, and some of just like a skimming the surface of what we're doing.
I love it. Really briefly, I know that you're a resident of the Near South neighborhood. I'm really fortunate to be a resident. What are some of your favorite things about living here in the Near South Lincoln neighborhood?
So I live in the Everett neighborhood, which is just border, like Near South and Everett are like hugging. They're like besties
Yeah.
as far as neighborhoods go. And my favorite thing about living here is the people and the architecture. Just like how old and how much history that this place has, that it's housed like people that are Germans from Russia over 100 years ago. It houses a lot of new Americans, and it houses me. And I think to be a part of that story is really cool.
I totally agree. Well, Kat, thank you so much. Thank you for being so generous with your time and your skills. This was so relaxing. You have a lot of fans who are calling you the next Bob Ross, so obviously you need to ascend. We have John Ferguson, who's going to be leading a coffee demonstration. He was very into your coffee observation drawing, so thank you so, so much. Once again, Kat is a phenomenal organizer and a wonderful artist, and you can follow her on Instagram. You can get involved with the South of Downtown organization by visiting lincolnsouthdowntownorg or following them on social media. And I want to say thanks to everyone who's joining us, who has drawn along with Kat too. We're so grateful for you to join us for our virtual Stream-a-thon and our virtual fundraising festival. Education is a central part of what Lincoln Calling does, and we're so grateful that we can work around with these wonderful creatives like Kat to create these great solutions. We do encourage you to donate, to give to Lincoln and support Lincoln Calling. Any donations that you can make to Lincoln Calling goes directly back to the community, to the artists, to the musicians, and to the educators that make this community great. Once again, thank you so much, Kat.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Good luck.
Bye. So next up is an urban gardening session entitled Planting Seeds for a Food Revolution. We're going to split this half hour between folks from Hawley Hamlet and Community Crops. First up is Hawley Hamlet, a neighborhood. It's a neighborhood organization that focuses on urban agriculture. Urban agriculture, and it's located in the Hawley Historic District of Lincoln. You will be able to be seeing kind of what this organization has done by transforming people's lawns, which may have just contained grass before, into workable agricultural plots. Not only have they done that great kind of re-landscaping, but they've done it in a wonderfully communal facet, in a communal way. So you'll be hearing today from Tim and Grant, representing Hawley Hamlet. Tim is the state coordinator of Nebraskans for Peace and a steering committee member for the Lincoln-Lancaster County Food Policy Council. Along with his neighbors, he co-founded the Hawley Hamlet Neighborhood Garden in the Hawley Historic District. You'll also be hearing from Grant Daly, who works in the Community Engagement Department at NeighborWorks Lincoln and has been a gardener in the Hawley Hamlet for 2 years. He's passionate about building community resilience through neighborhood organizing, gardening, and supporting quality, affordable housing. Let's see what they have in store for us.
Welcome to the Hawley Hamlet. My name is Tim Rinee. I live here, and I've lived here for 38 years, if I do the math correctly. And I originally grew up out in the Nebraska Panhandle, but I moved to Lincoln in 1975. So I have been here now for 45 years. And for 35 of those 45 years, I thought that my job as an urbanite, as a Lincoln dweller, as a member of the metropolis, my job in the food system was to eat. And I did it really well. I did it at least 3 times a day, sometimes more often. I was a really good eater. Okay. And then about 10 years ago, I read this article where it said that climate change, which I've been freaking out about for 30 years, climate change is going to have a huge impact on our food system, on our ability to grow food. And all of a sudden I started thinking that, wait a second, this could mean that I miss meals. Okay. So all of a sudden I decided that maybe I needed to shift in my thinking, that my job in the food system was not just to consume, not just to eat, but to also maybe try to grow what I could. So my wife and I then decided that we were going to give up our lawn. We had a conventional lawn just like anybody else, grass everywhere, ornamental bushes, all of the above. We started clear cutting. We got all of the lawn out of there. We replaced most of the ornamental bushes, and we started planting fruit, including in the front yard. And that first year I had zucchini out here, and they died and they looked gross. And so I had this Halloween display of these sort of ghoulish creatures here for like months on end. And I realized that I wasn't a very good neighbor. So I decided I was going to go to native plants. So now in the front yard, we have native plants. But throughout the yard, we've turned the whole thing into what we call an edible landscape. And so that's what we've got here. Is we've got an opportunity for people to grow food in the city. But here's the thing. I'm not the only person in Lincoln that eats. I'm not the only person that's hungry. So my wife and I decided that maybe we should buy a problem property, rehab it, and turn that into an edible landscape so that some of our neighbors could garden. And then we bought another property, and we did that as well. And right now, we have over 20 families from within the block here or across the street who are gardening with us in what we call the Hawley Hamlet. It is the coolest thing I have ever been part of in my entire life. We're not going to feed ourselves, but we can grow stuff that is perishable. And because it's perishable, we can grow it better and produce it more healthfully than anybody else. Because when we go out and harvest it, we're harvesting it to put it in our mouth and to eat it immediately. It doesn't have to sit on a truck for a week before it gets here from the California Central Valley. We can do the best stuff that we can do in the gardening world, which is grow perishable crops like tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, lettuce, that sort of stuff. We can do it better than anybody. So that's what we're trying to do in the Hamlet. This is our effort at food security. Welcome to the Hamlet. These are the Hawley Hamlet honeybees. We have had bees since about 2014, I think. So this is like maybe our 6th or 7th season that we've had them. Nebraska winters and colony collapse disorders pretty hard on your bee population. So 2 years ago, we lost all 3 hives. They had given us 15 gallons of honey, and within a matter of weeks, all 3 hives were dead. So last year we got no honey. This year we added not only the one that we lost over the winter over there, but we added yet another hive. And so we've got 4, and our plan is next year that we will increase to 6. And if you're not scared of bees, and if you're not allergic to them, it's the most amazing hobby ever, okay? It's a matriarch, all right? We might want to consider, exploring such an idea, given what we're dealing with politically on the national level right now.
Hey, it's Grant Daly. I'm at the Hawley Hamlet here. We're going to go through a little demonstration of how we take a bed and get it planted. So you can kind of see here on the bed, there is a lot of this leftover straw. Now we put that on last fall, and just to kind of protect the soil and kind of keep the moisture in. It reduces weeds a little bit. We're kind of light on it right now, but we're going to get planting. So we're going to take a little bit of that and clear off with just using a garden rig. And you can see the soil is pretty dark. This is pretty good topsoil. We've been planting and harvesting here for a while, so it's in pretty good condition. kind of see here as I shovel into it, you know, that's dark and kind of rich. It kind of looks like what you would buy at a store. Now, if you're digging up your yard for the first time, you're not necessarily going to have soil like this. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to kind of, you know, dig into it and break it up a little bit. Now, I'm not going to do that a whole bunch here, but you're wanting it to still be kind of clumpy like this. You don't want to shred the soil. You don't want to make it powdery, but you also can't be planting with like solid clay disc of soil. So once you've kind of broken the soil up, you are ready to get planting. So I'm going to grab some tomato plants here. Now we like to do rotation of different types of plants here, but if you're just digging your yard up for the first time, you can start with whatever you'd like and just see how it does. Sorry, this tomato is a little difficult. Okay, so I'll take this trowel here. I'll just kind of break up the soil and get a little bit of a hole there. Now with tomatoes, you want to leave some space from the edges. I like to leave about a trowel's space away from the edge. Then you'll place it in there and you'll take that soil, you'll cover it up. And as you plant, you want to make sure that the base of the root, where the root connects to the stem, is in there pretty solidly. So you put some pressure on that. You don't want it bending over or flopping over in the rain. So now that that's solidly in, the next step is we'll take some straw and we're going to cover around the outside. Now, like I said earlier, this protects the soil moisture and quality and just helps you in your fight against weed a little bit. And there you go. That's about what you're going to do. And now we would fill that whole bed with a certain type of plant. And then as the season went on, we'd harvest and then replant depending on what's there. So we'd put a cover crop in. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you just over here. I'm going to do pepper. These are peppers that we've started from little seedlings indoors. I dug up a hole again. Really, it's just going to be the same thing. Now, most of the plants this time of year, we're a little bit past the season as far as some of like leafy greens. It's getting a little too hot for that if they haven't been planted already. But things like peppers and tomatoes and cucumbers, that like summer fruiting crops, it's perfect time for those. So then again, we're just going to do the same thing we did with the tomato. Just cover it with straw. Get the bit of plastic out of there. We don't want that in the garden. And there we go. So now, at first, once you plant things, sometimes they'll have a little bit of shock from being initially planted. So they might wilt. Don't give up on them. The next step is getting water on them. So we want to wait before we pull them or anything happens. We want to give them a chance to get hydrated and get settled in their new environment. So we're gonna go get some water and then we'll be right back. So now that we've got the water running, we're gonna give our tomato and our pepper a little bit to drink. Now there's no secret recipe of like how much water is perfect, but we're looking for some pooling without flooding the plant. So that's got some water pooling there. So I'm gonna let it recede for a little bit. And do that again, and that's probably enough to get it started at that point. Do the same for the pepper. You want to give it a good first drink to get started, but you don't want to overwater your plant. The soil's pretty wet from yesterday, so I'm gonna cut off there and just let that sit. But really, you're looking for kind of that soil moisture. You don't want to turn it into mud, but you want it to be something that the plant can really get hydrated from. So over here we have our tomato section. So rather than using those kind of little circular cages, they work sometimes, but they can also be a little flimsy when your tomatoes grow a lot. So we use these cattle panels. So we take a T-post and then we use some wire to fasten this cattle panel to the T-posts. And then what the tomatoes will do as they grow, they'll grow from down here up, and then they'll kind of weave in and out of the cattle panel. And these are pretty sturdy. They stand. I'm pulling it pretty hard, and it's staying okay. So when it gets windy, they'll be safe and sound. It also just kind of keeps the tomatoes out of the way, so you don't get a huge tomato bush. You get tomato vine growing up, and that kind of saves space in your garden. So this is our covered hoop house here. We've got a number of different things. This is all lettuce over here. Then we've got spinach kind of just beneath you there. And then this is different cole crops, broccoli, mostly. I think, yeah, broccoli you can see there, some cabbages. You could see that our lettuces have gotten too long and they're starting to bolt. But we also have fresh microgreens lettuce over here. And this stuff, this is really good stuff. This is like the stuff, you know, you could have on a nice salad at a restaurant. It's nice and crunchy, and by having it in a covered coop house, we can grow stuff like this for most of the year if we want to. We don't have heat, but having this covered keeps both moisture and heat in, and allows sun to pass through, which is perfect for leafy greens and lettuce. So this is our cereal rye we have, which we use as a cover crop. So whenever a bed isn't planted, especially after our summer harvest in the fall, we like to plant cereal rye here. Now this is used in bread and beer and things like that, but we don't really harvest it. We're just getting it on there to keep the soil covered. The root systems work the soil, and it's kind of like tilling it and covering it so that our soil quality doesn't deteriorate when we don't have plants on there. And then this is our compost pile. So excess rye, food scraps, grass clippings, small twigs. We don't really turn. We kind of have a kind of lazy compost, but it still allows space and time to for it to biodegrade, and then we can take some of this material and use it for straw for the beds if we run out of straw. Thanks for joining us. Today we did a little planting and how to take a bed of soil and turn it into a place that you can grow plants in. So we'll have more videos about gardening coming up here soon. So thanks for joining us.
Wonderful. Well, a huge thanks to Tim and Grant from the Hawley Hamlet. You are welcome to follow them on Facebook, and feel free to give that neighborhood a visit. It is truly beautiful to see the work that they've done. Next up is a mini session with Megan McGuffey of Community Crops. Community Crops is a nonprofit organization that provides education, advocacy, and experiences to grow local food. Megan is our host, and she is the executive director of Community Crops. She is a gardener and a scholar of public administration. Her research focuses on food and farm policy broadly, and her dissertation looks at the role of food policy networks in the local government policy process. Megan, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us.
Hi, thank you. So glad to be here today with everyone. So I just want to focus and kind of complement what Grant and Tim were sharing with you today. They're my partners on the Lincoln-Lancaster County Food Policy Council. And we are really pushing this summer alongside all our partners to encourage everyone to grow at least some of their own food this year. Something you might not know, when you think about Nebraska, it's an agricultural state, right? But more than 90% of our food is actually imported. And our most famous crop, corn, actually only 1% of our corn is consumed by humans. The rest of it all goes to feed for animals or becomes fuel. So for our community to be truly food secure, meaning that everyone consistently has enough food to be able to thrive, we can all contribute. Everyone can grow at least a little bit of their own food or choose to buy from and support local farmers. And that helps us rebuild our local food supply and get to a point where we can be a more resilient community, which is especially important in times like we are experiencing now. So everyone can grow something. I really encourage you, Grant and Tim showed you what can happen out in a great space like the Hawley Hamlet by turning up your yard. So you can do a lot of great things in an in-ground garden or a raised bed garden. Don't let that limit you if you don't have a lawn. You can also do really wonderful things even with container gardens. So Try an herb on your windowsill if you don't have any outdoor space, or if you have a patio or balcony, try putting a little container garden in. And I will have a little demo here. I can see if I can pull off while I'm talking. So this is a better bush variety of tomato, and I selected this because it is more compact in its growing. And you'll find that a lot of your favorite vegetables, such as things like cucumbers, tomatoes, eggplants, a lot of them now have patio varieties that are smaller and meant for containers. So you can try to find a variety that'll fit a good container, and you really just want to plant things deeply. And one thing with tomatoes, this might seem hard, but you can actually pinch off these lower leaves, because what we're going to do is plant it nice and deep, and it'll become roots all along the stem, which gives you a sturdy plant, which is very important with the variable Nebraska weather. So just planting that little guy there, and just like we talked about in the previous video, giving it a good water. And so another important thing to think about is if you are growing in a container or wherever you want to grow, you really need 3 things. You need good sunlight. 8 hours of direct sun is preferable, although you can do a little research. There are a few things that will tolerate more shade. You need good quality soil. So you want something with lots of good organic matter that has the right soil amendments and nutrients for your plants to grow. And then adequate water, but especially if you're doing a container garden, make sure there's some holes in the bottom of your container, because you don't want to drown your plants from trying to keep them well watered. And that's really all it takes. I would encourage you to experiment and try something out this summer. We talked a little bit about the fact that it's getting later in the season, so it's good to mention what you can still plant. Things like basil, peppers, eggplants, tomatoes, you can still plant all of those. You want to buy seedlings at this point. It's a little bit too late to start by seed. Melons, pumpkins, cucumbers, squash, keep going. Right until June, you can still be planting those things. And things like green beans, you can plant even later. And if you didn't hear one of your favorites on that list, they might be an early spring vegetable, but the good news is you can extend your season by planting into the fall. So things like green beans, beets, greens like lettuce and spinach, carrots, brassicas like kale and cabbage, you can do a second planting of those in the fall and get one more harvest in before the hard frost in late October. So it helps to start those little seedlings inside, because it'll be really hot and hard for them late in the summer, but don't be discouraged. You can keep growing all season long. And I just really want to throw out there that now more than ever, gardening is really a revolutionary act. Take back control of your food supply, grow some of your own, and support local farmers. So it's really critical in this moment. And we just encourage everyone, like, gardening is an outlet for creativity, for expression, and also for sort of taking ownership and taking control of your own food supply. So we hope you'll all join us and try to grow something this summer.
Thank you so much, Megan. That was awesome. I'm so grateful for all of the resources that you and Community Crops and everybody in the gardening community here in Lincoln makes available to us folks who want to get in the dirt, who want to grow our own food, but don't really know where to start. So thank you so much for making that accessible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I am super fortunate to live right next to a Community Crops garden. And for those of our viewers who may not be familiar with those gardens, could you describe a little bit of what those gardens look like and what they feel like too?
Absolutely. So we have 11 community gardens around the city of Lincoln, and these are gardens where we work with different organizations and partners. We don't own any land as Community Crops. It's all through partnership that we're able to access land from great supporters. And we put in these gardens and we make sure there's the water, the tools, the resources to help people grow. And then people put in applications with us over the winter or in the early spring. And then we try to place them based on their preference at a garden, hopefully close to their home or work. And then you pay a small fee on a sliding scale for a 100 square foot plot. And if you've been with us several years and you're doing well, you can increase and have a couple plots in a row. But they're just really beautiful spaces, not only to give people who might not otherwise have a yard they can grow in, a space to grow, but they're also really spaces for community and spaces for celebrating the diversity of Lincoln. Before I became executive director, I gardened with Community Crops, and I always loved just to walk through the gardens and see, we have people from 45 different countries, and just to see, you could pick a single plant like a tomato and see how different everybody grows it, what varieties they choose, the ways they trellis. So it's a really cool place to just interact with the diversity of the community and get involved with everyone.
I absolutely agree. I find it just so phenomenally wonderful to see all those different plant knowledges and traditions handed down, performed, practiced in these communal spaces. It's truly beautiful. So thank you. I know y'all are really dedicated to lowering barriers as, and finding more ways to give people access to growing their own food. What are some of the biggest barriers that people encounter when trying to take control of their own food sources?
Yeah, great question. So I think number one is just those access to resources. And then two would be the access to skills. So both through our community gardens and our 5-acre training farm out at Prairie Pines, we're just trying to give space to people to try things out. And sometimes they stay with us for a while. Sometimes it's a stepping stone for them to go into their own space. Also, education is huge. So you can check out our website. We try to do through our Facebook page and through different workshops, opportunities for people to be empowered and learn how to do more of this on their own, whether it's seed starting or anything else. So it's really just about, making people feel confident. And again, like garden's experimental. So I think people get stressed and worried sometimes, but you can try it out, and Google is your best friend. There's lots of great resources out there from local places like us, University Extension. So just try it out. It'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, obviously the coronavirus has changed the way that we interact on so many levels. It's changed so much about how we kind of go about our daily life. I noticed too a couple weeks and months ago when I was starting to do some garden prep for myself, it was kind of hard to find seeds. One of my friends who works on the Sacred Seed pop-up project in Omaha was like, everybody and their dog is trying to find seeds and do some planting right now, which is a good thing.
Absolutely.
But can you tell us a little bit how you've witnessed people kind of responding to the pandemic, to the virus, through gardening?
Absolutely. Yeah, there is such an interest this year, and that totally follows what we know historically. Every time we have a big crisis, people think of gardening, which is a really lovely, positive thing to go to. And we see the seed shortages and things like that, but there's also a lot of communal ways you can get things. Many local farmers are having great sales right now. We just finished up our big sale. We did it online to be a little safer. And seed saving is a great thing that you can do to make sure that you have seeds in the future, not just this growing season. So we'll be doing more education like that. We love to do a seed swap every spring. So in the early months before the garden season, people bring what they have left over and they throw it all out on a table and they trade and they share. So I think it's all about just talking to your neighbors, talking to your family members, and kind of collaborating. And that's how we can get through even these really resource-stricken times, as we're all getting excited about these things and going a little stir-crazy at home.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to check in with you too and just see how you're doing and how gardening what has gardening offered you personally recently?
Yeah, well, thank you. I think gardening for me every year, it's such an enormous kind of meditative act. It's a beautiful thing to be out in nature, to care for something and to watch it grow. I think it has such great benefits. And it's also the basis of so many friendships that I have. I'm in addition to my own home garden, I have a friend, and our new socially distant activity is two of us are gardening together in their side yards. So it can be this thing that brings people together, even as we have to stay apart for safety.
Absolutely. I've definitely found myself reaching out to some of my gardening friends and saying, like, I have a really large space and I don't have much knowledge, which I know you have. Maybe this is an opportunity for us to come together and share these things, see each other's face, but stay distant. So gardening, yeah, that's such a wonderful, wonderful resource to have. So also, I'd love to know, what does Community Crops have planned for the next couple months? What kind of things should we look out for, and what things can people get involved with?
Yeah, great question. So we just finished up our plant sale, and now everybody's sort of settling into the garden and the farm spaces. We are really looking for a lot of volunteers right now. So even if you maybe don't want your own garden or you're looking for another outlet to help, we're going to have a form up on our website that lets you sign up and you can volunteer as an individual. we're planting a new food forest, a permaculture food installation out at our training farm right now. Our gardens always need some love and care, and especially this year, we're doing donation gardens, so adding new spaces to make sure we can get food to those in need. So if any of that sounds fun, we'd love to have you volunteer and sign up. And other than that, we are just kind of evolving and changing with things. We can't do, just like Lincoln Calling, we can't do the big gatherings that we traditionally planned, but we are really passionate about finding ways to connect with people through the internet and other ways to just make sure we all stay connected and that we're still sharing skills and knowledge and resources in this time.
That sounds phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that volunteer opportunity too. I've definitely heard a lot of friends wondering how they can get involved, do something safely, and that sounds really, really wonderful. So folks, listen up and go check out that volunteer opportunity. I have one last question for you. I know that you've been involved in community crops for a long time, and your scholarship also is all around food and policy. So I have a feeling that you're a bit of a dreamer. So can you tell me a little bit about what is your vision for the future of Lincoln and, food access, food sovereignty, food policy?
Yeah, thank you. That's an incredible question. I think what so excites me about Lincoln is that it's a really special place. It has that small town feel, and there's so much culture and vibrancy. So when I think about local food and connection to our community in particular, I'm just envisioning transforming the landscape. So we love our garden spaces and our farms, but what we really want to see is the landscape of Lincoln transform. Turn up your lawn, do what Tim has done. Put in native plants for pollinators, put in food to share with your neighbors. That's really the future that we see, and really empowering everyone so that they can grow their own food, access healthy foods. It shouldn't be a luxury for a few of us. We should all have good, healthy diets that come from us helping each other as neighbors and having a good, strong local food supply.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Megan. It has been such a privilege to spend this time with you, learning from you and your friends, Tim and Grant. I have certainly learned a lot, and I can't wait to get into my garden and start putting into practice some of this knowledge that you all have shared. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks for
Yeah. Well, once again, we've been talking with Executive Director Megan McGuffey at Community Crops. You can get involved with Community Crops by visiting communitycrops.org or following them on social media. And I want to thank everyone for joining our educational workshops this afternoon, part of our virtual fundraising festival Stream-a-thon. We've put this marathon streaming weekend together to bring you the arts that sustain us. And now we're asking for your help to ensure that the arts can be sustained. Please consider giving to Lincoln Calling through givetolincoln.com. Every donation is an incredible gesture, and it actually goes directly back to the artists that make our community great. Your donations support artists, musicians, and educators just like Megan and the folks that you have visited with earlier today. So next, I'd like to welcome Francisca Beltran of the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights. The goal of the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights is to prevent, respond to, and eliminate all forms of illegal discrimination, and to assure and foster equal opportunity for all City of Lincoln community members. The novel coronavirus has caused countless challenges and obstacles for everyone, but another symptom of the virus is a heightened environment for discrimination. So today you're going to hear from Francisca about some of the work that they're doing to address this particular issue. Francisca, welcome.
Hello, and welcome to the Lincoln Calling Wellness Workshop. My name is Francisca. I am a community outreach coordinator for the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights. So today I am going to be talking about what the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights does. This office is located on the 3rd floor in the City County building on 11th and K. We are a small office. There are 5 of us. Because we're such a small office, we know and realize that not everyone knows that this office exists. So it's a pleasure to be able to be on Lincoln Calling and speak a little bit more about what our office does, and also realizing that this is a resource that everyone should know about. Sometimes I think there are so many resources out in the community, and with such a small staff, not everybody knows about what there is in our community. So I want to talk a little bit more about what we do, where you can find us as a resource online, and round it off with, if anybody has any questions at the end, I will certainly try and answer them to the best of my ability. So the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights has been around for quite a long time, for over 50 years when it first started. Our office continues to grow in small steps, but it's an important office for the community, okay? So what do? We investigate allegations of discrimination for employment, housing, and public accommodations. So you might be thinking, okay, well, how does that help me, or how do I fit into all this? Well, the city of Lincoln, what it has is what we call protected classes. That's how we are all protected in one way or another. It's not just about race, it's not just about color, it's about everyone in the community, okay? And so what are some of those protected classes? Well, some of those protected classes are age, sex, race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, disability, marital status, and gender. And I'm going to go back to disability because a lot of times I think when people hear the word disability, they think of a physical disability, but there's also mental health disabilities, and there's also health disabilities. So that is all a part of that. Now, there's a reason why they're very specific protected classes. That is how we in our office determine if there is a case. It has to connect to one of those protected classes. In our office, we have 2 investigators, and their job is to do the intake with the potential client. And from there, then decide if there is a case with that individual. All our cases are solely from the city of Lincoln. Anything outside of Lincoln, we will refer refer those people to other agencies that can help them, or to the EEOC with the state of Nebraska. But the majority of the time, we really try to accommodate people as long as they're in the city of Lincoln. Besides that, so I'm going to touch very briefly on the process of how anybody would go about filing an allegation in our office. So it starts off with the phone call. And, somebody taking an intake, whether it's myself, whether it's our admin, and making sure that we have as much as information as possible to be able to give it to the investigators. Once the investigators have that information, they follow up with a phone call and speak with the individual or individuals. And from there, they determine, when that appointment to do an intake is. Once they do an intake, then they will certainly let that individual or individuals know what the next steps are. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to get into too much of that, but I'm going to give you the bare bones of what that is. So, and once that's done, let's say that the allegation, the individual is going forward with the allegation. The investigator's job is to make sure that all of the facts are brought together and in a report. Once that report is complete, then it goes to our commissioners. We do have 9 commissioners that are together, or that are set up together from our community. So they get appointed by the mayor's office. And one thing I want to point out about that is anybody is welcome to apply to be a commissioner, whether it's our office or any of the commissions that the city has to offer, because we do depend on our citizens of our community to help us be a part of the commissions, to be a part of the different groups to decide. In this case, it would be the outcome of a case. And we do provide training for that. That's a side note. Once it goes to the commissioners, then, you know, the commissioners read the report. Once they read the report, then they determine the outcome of that case. And again, I'm giving you the bare bones because there is a lot of in between of what I'm saying. But again, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go into that. And then it's up to the investigator if the investigator needs to contact again the individual who's filed the allegation, whether it's via mail and or needs to contact the other party involved. And if it's employment, the employer. If it's, excuse me, if it's another individual or, you know, another organization, that is their job. That is what they'll do. And then that's a very, very brief description of what our office does. Like I said, bare bones of what we do in reality. But, you know, at the end of the day, what our goal is as an organization is to ensure that people know that they have rights in the city of Lincoln and that we are a resource for them to call us, to email us, or to do an intake form, a confidential intake form at that, through our website. So where can you find us? You can find us on the lincoln.ne.gov website. We have different resources, and we certainly provide also different resources in different languages. So besides English, we have Spanish, Vietnamese, French, Arabic, let's see, Russian, and I know I'm missing another one. Well, the English one would be the other one, Korean, excuse me, and we also have Korean. Those are what we have determined to be the most needed languages, even though that Lincoln has over 80, probably 80 plus languages that we speak out in our community. But those are the main ones that we've determined that we run across that people actually need. Unfortunately, we are not able to provide other languages at the moment, just simply because then there would be an abundance of them. The other thing that we do provide is interpreting. So if somebody calls our office and they're not able to communicate in English, we certainly do call interpreters online. Because at the moment there's only one individual who speaks another language. But we're always willing to accommodate individuals with languages, and that includes sign language. Okay, we will accommodate people with the different languages. The other thing we do in our office is we actually have classes where we will talk a little bit more about employment discrimination, housing discrimination, public accommodations discrimination. Those are held more on a quarterly basis, and we do that as a staff, as a group sometimes. We have an individual who will actually go out and talk a little bit more about the laws regarding discrimination in the city of Lincoln and about the trends across our nation. And then the one thing that I do want to highlight is our Civil Rights Conference. So the Civil Rights Conference is held in April, which is Housing Month. And every year it's a one-day conference. We attract people from all surrounding states. We give legal updates for housing and employment, but then also we try to incorporate What are some of those trends that are coming up across the nation? Is it LGBTQ issues? Is there a specific trends with disabilities in housing that affects our community, especially right now when there is we don't have a lot of affordable housing. What can we do as a community to be able to provide more information, or how can we help to be able to provide affordable housing? And so a lot of training that is given through our office. Now, my job is going out to different organizations and doing what I'm doing right now, is talking about what we do in our office, and then also providing some translation services. I'm bilingual, I speak Spanish, and so making sure that I connect with the community that speaks Spanish, but not just with our Spanish speakers, with anybody who speaks another language. It is important that, like I stated earlier, that we all know what our rights are. And so making sure that our new immigrants and refugees know that we are here for them and that we are a resource for them is important. But then also letting the community as a whole know that people can always call us. It doesn't have to be that you're a non-English speaker. I mean, if you're being harassed at work, or you feel discriminated at work, sexually harassed, this is a resource for you. And one of the things that I like to tell people is, this is your resource. Your taxes pay for our office to be here. And so people should call us and ask those questions, however they may feel comfortable relaying the information, because as I started saying before, we do have an intake form. It is a confidential form that people can do online, or if they have Uplink. Uplink also has a way to report any allegations. Any of the community centers, El Centro, the Asian Center, Malone Center, Ponca Tribe, the Good Neighbor Center, the Indian Center, any of those community centers know us and know what our office does, and know that we are here as a resource for the community. So those are some of our goals, okay? What our office does, but also what we want people to take away of what our office is really doing. So right now during COVID-19, one of the things that we've been doing is we've been assisting and helping with translating the information, handouts regarding COVID-19, making sure that everyone has access to different languages, especially in the mayor's briefings. We're doing it once a week right now. And right now we're only offering the Arabic, Vietnamese, and Spanish one. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to do Korean also. The city's website, we've assisted in making sure that, if we are not able to translate it, making sure we get somebody who's knowledgeable of that language and translating, making sure that information is up to date consistently is another thing that our office does. With that being said, another thing that I'd like to talk about is a takeaway. Some of you might be familiar with the webinars that have been going around. So I'm going to actually talk a little bit about what I took away from a webinar from Hollaback. It was excellent. Because of COVID-19 and what everybody is going through, especially when people are having to make changes, whether it's wearing their mask, social distancing, adhering to their cultural norms, this all affects us in different ways. And so, we always talk about how we get self-defensive and how do we defend ourselves. But what I want to say to you today is, I want you to be more of on the other side, being that bystander. What would you do if you're a bystander and listening to someone who is being discriminated against or any, microaggressions, which are on the rise right now. Because it doesn't mean that it only happens to people of color or minorities. It can happen to somebody who's just standing, at the store and starts coughing, and people start giving them ugly looks or start saying things to them because they're simply coughing. So here are the 5 Ds that I took away from Hollaback, and I wanted to share those with you. Okay, so what would a bystander intervention look like? Well, what they're called, they're the 5 Ds. Okay, and we all play a role when it comes to being a bystander and what we can do for others who might be them receiving that type of behavior, the discriminatory behavior or just microaggression. Okay, so distraction. So take an indirect approach to de-escalate the situation. What does that look like? It could mean that the way you're positioned, if you're standing and maybe you can kind of intervene and let, because body language says a lot. So sometimes changing our body language or slightly, listening, making sure that that person is not getting attacked. And if they are, maybe engaging that individual who is the receiver of that aggression, and engaging them in some kind of a conversation, or use your imagination on that one. It's whatever anybody feels comfortable doing. Then delegate. So let's say that you are in a situation where we're trying to distract, but we all have to realize that some situations can be very dangerous, or escalate to a level that we have no control. And so don't be afraid of asking for help, or getting someone's attention from a store, or if you're out in the street, don't feel afraid of maybe even calling the police if it's necessary, because we never know how quick it'll escalate and in what danger that person or individual or individuals can be. So delegating, asking for that help. Delay. So once that incident is over, maybe asking that person, hey, are you okay? Do you need anything else? Do you need me to call somebody? Because, sometimes even though we generally all have a phone, we're so upset and sometimes, even scared that we're not able to make that phone call and get somebody, a family member or a friend to be by our sides. So just, being that individual says, hey, you need assistance making a phone call, or can I walk you over somewhere? Obviously, making sure that you don't put yourself at harm's way. So that would be delay. Then direct. Assess your safety first. Going back to what I started saying earlier, speaking up, but also making sure that you don't put yourself in harm's way. And if you feel like you are, then taking it to that next level and delegating, asking for that somebody else for assistance. Okay. And then documenting it. Sometimes, and I know it sounds so cliche, like everybody can do a video of all these incidences, and no, when you come up with a situation where it might be beneficial for that individual to have a recording, especially if they intend to call the police and make a report, that video will come very much in handy. Does that mean that you videotape every incident? No, it does not. But it certainly gives you the leeway to think, okay, is this a situation where I should be recording so I can, one, you yourself remember what happened, or two, if it helps that individual. So those are the 5 Ds. That is what I took away from that Hollaback webinar. I hope this helps you. I certainly do appreciate the Lincoln Calling Wellness Group for reaching out to me. If you have any questions, I will be available. And like I said, I will try to answer them to the best of my ability, because at the end of the day, we all have rights. And with that being said, I want to encourage you again to go to our website on the city website and look at our webpage, because we also have videos that we do on a month-to-month, which have kind of stopped because of COVID. But there's other videos with other information that we have been posting. If you'd like to follow us on Facebook, we certainly would love it. And with that being said, thank you and have a good afternoon.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Francisca, for offering that incredibly useful resource. I know you'll be joining us shortly here for some Q&A. Just a reminder for folks to visit that website. You can find the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights by visiting the City of Lincoln website and finding it there. Hello, Francisca. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that wonderful resource with us. I feel like I learned a lot. And it was really great to hear about all of the different resources that are put together to make sure that people in Lincoln know their rights. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I started watching from the beginning, Lincoln Calling, and it is awesome. All of that information that is being given to us. And so I like the idea that we need to kind of meditate and take time, for ourselves, especially with COVID, and then the planting. As a matter of fact, we started a gardening because of COVID, just, to have something to do and to have our food. But then also knowing that this is a resource. So all of the people that you've shown up until now, there are resources that we all should know about. And that is important. We are lucky and fortunate to have Lincoln make available to us the resources. And the one thing about the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights is, a lot of times people think it's just about discrimination, and it is not. It's also about education. It is also about teaching, because believe it or not, we don't all know everything when it comes to discrimination. And certainly also, teaching people, that the city of Lincoln has a lot more to offer. It's not just the offices that they know about. It's not just LPD or, going into for any of the other offices they have. LCHR is doing great things. We are trying to work closely with our community to bring different projects together because it's important that we all communicate and we all connect. And that's what I love about Lincoln Calling right now, is that we are all connecting in one way or another. And I assure you that the audience right now is taking a little bit of everything that has been shown up until now. I'm not an original Lincolnite. I've been in Lincoln for about 30 years. And it motivates me to learn more about my community and how else I can stay grounded and continue to not only learn for myself, but, teach others, how important it is that we continue to learn. And what else can we give back? Knowing about our rights, it's everybody's right. We all need to know about our rights. And it really warms my heart to know that I'm a part of several community members when it comes to our immigrants, our refugees, our community as a whole, to talk more about not only but the rights, but what we can do together. And I think Lincoln Calling is one of those events, especially right now, because obviously we need to do social distancing and what we're learning. I think this is awesome.
I totally agree. And thank you so much. And I mean, we're so grateful for everyone in the community that has lent their expertise, their knowledge, and their time. This is what strengthens our community and your work and the work of your colleagues and the work of the city. The city has been a major supporter of Lincoln Calling for years. And so we're really grateful that we have a municipality and leadership that recognizes the importance of such cultural gatherings as a place to gather, connect, and share resources exactly like this. So we're so grateful.
Yes,
I had a question for you.
Sure.
I was so happy to hear you talk about the different resources that you've created in various languages. obviously language is a really important issue and can be a major barrier when it comes to accessing the resources, the information, and the support that you need. Language is also just one part of a larger and beautiful cultural puzzle. So because Lincoln is this gorgeous, diverse community, how has your office kind of navigated some of those cultural differences to ensure that folks that bring lots of cultural traditions can also navigate this kind of muddy water of policy and knowing your rights?
Well, that's a great question. And you're right, with all the different languages and different cultures, we have to be sensitive and make sure that we understand each of those cultures. A lot of it has to do with training. Like I stated earlier, we are a small office. There's only 5 of us. And the city does a good job of encouraging us to seek out and learn more about the cultural events. And that's one thing that Lincoln has, is all the different cultural events. You've got the Latinos, you've got the Asian Center, the Ponca tribe with the Native Americans, you've got the Malone Center with Juneteenth. And one of the things that I'd like for people to know is if you don't feel comfortable about a culture, I encourage you to attend those cultural activities. So in our office, we actually make time to go to these events. It's also about, communicating and certainly getting into knowing the different, what do you call it? Boy, the train of thought just went out. The different people in the different respective communities and asking questions. I mean, the reality is that's the only way we're going to learn. So I was fortunate enough to start learning more about the different cultures when I worked in a clinic, and there was 7 different individuals as case managers, and we all came from different cultures. They made me feel comfortable enough to ask about, Middle Eastern culture, about the, African culture, Native American culture. So asking those questions, I think that people need to know that it's okay to say, I don't know, and to feel comfortable enough to ask. The other thing I would say is I would encourage people to visit North 27. It takes away a little bit of that stigma that it's only for those pertaining cultures. And the reality, it is not. It's for all of us, and they welcome you. We all should feel welcomed within our city and with what we have to offer, because at the end of the day, we're all together on this.
It's so true.
It is.
Well, thank you, Francisca. I wish we could stay chatting for so much longer. You have such wonderful insight and knowledge to share, and I can't express my gratitude enough for the work that you do for our community. Thank you. Thank you
Thank you very much. And thank you to Lincoln Calling. Certainly appreciate it. And a shout out to the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights staff. I know some of you are watching, so this has been great. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll be able to meet up again, Erin.
Very much so. All right. Thank you so much, Francisca. Well, we are so grateful for yet another wonderful workshop. Thank you again to Francisca and to her colleagues at the Commission for Human Rights in the City of Lincoln office. Once again, I want to thank you for being with us for our Stream-a-thon. This is a virtual fundraising festival, and we are offering this afternoon of educational workshops to try and stimulate this kind of connection and community that Lincoln Calling has been known for over 17 years. Education is a central part of what we do, and we're so grateful that we can gather in this way while we're staying safely socially distant. If you're enjoying these programs, and if you've ever enjoyed anything at Lincoln Calling, we encourage you to visit givetolincoln.com and donate what you can. Your support is greatly appreciated, and we are able to turn those dollars back around and put them into the pockets of artists, musicians, and educators like you've been seeing all weekend. So thank you for considering donating. Next, I want to welcome John Ferguson, representing Mosaic Coffee. John roasts his own coffee through the Mosaic Coffee Project. He is an advocate for co-roasting spaces and locally roasted coffee. Thank you so much for joining us, John. Welcome.
Hi, how are you doing today? Can you hear me okay?
Great. Yes, great.
You can hear me. Oh my gosh, it all works. This is great. And you can see the table. And I have stacked my computer on a crate. Also, a book about organic gardening, and a Spanish and English dictionary. So I've got about 6 foot of height there, and it's all working out. So, yeah.
Go ahead, take us through.
Oh, we're ready. All right. So
go for it.
Yeah, my name is John Ferguson, and I actually most of the time that I spend, it's at the Arbor Day Foundation with the coffee program there, where I look at the issues of what kind of role the trees play in coffee growing around the globe. Locally, I spend part of my time with launching this space called the Roasting Space at Shea Soto. And Shea Soto is an event space downtown. I think it was like on 12th and L. But I was fortunate enough to come across a small roaster about 2 years ago. And Sean, the owner of Shea Soto, allowed us to kind of put the roaster in the space and then kind of open it up to it becoming a co-roasting space. So with that said, we've had a lot of people come in, and a couple people have started their own coffee roasting companies and brands, much like myself, where I have the Mosaic coffee project. This coffee we'll be tasting today, and we'll be doing a little cupping. But also I wanted to mention that Kara Fike at Handmade Coffee has also participated in utilizing that roaster and has done phenomenally well, and has been roasting some amazing coffee. So please check that out. And also Metal Art Coffee, Jerry and Kate there have been also participating. It's been a pleasure to have to be a part of that and to see those companies grow, and also Danielle and a couple other stars on the horizon. So Lincoln is going to be seeing a lot of very small micro roasters growing, and that's the hopes. But with this pandemic and with these challenges, a lot of the doors have closed, and a part of the initiative that the Mosaic Coffee Project was intentionally designed to do is to kind of raise a little bit more funds to kind of contribute to paying rent, and also just kind of getting the word out and keeping this space going. So today, I had kind of advertised a little bit about if you buy a bag of coffee, a little 12-ounce bag of coffee, you get this little single taster. And today we're going to just kind of talk about how do you cup coffee? Like, what's this professional coffee cupping? I mean, it's a coffee tasting, right? If you Google what is cupping, you'll probably find some very unique links to using hot cups on your back, and it's supposed to make you feel better. Well, that's fine. You could do that. You can also cup coffee or taste coffee in this fashion, and hopefully it will give you a different type of pleasure. So today, the first thing that you need to do, everybody who has one of these, thank you for investing your time and your effort. And if for some reason you're missing this, well, you won't hear me say this, but I'll catch up with you later, and we'll do this together some other time. Anyway, so you need some hot water. I would suggest that you get a hot water kettle like this. It's kind of not the fanciest looking thing, so I decided to go ahead and have this used for today to make it look really nice and special. I also wore this jacket and this shirt that says what does it say? Sacred Coffee of Ethiopia. And it just so happens that we're drinking Ethiopian coffee, and it's also the birthplace of coffee, and it is also phenomenal coffee. So with all that being said, let's get to brewing coffee. So the first thing that you want to do when you're kind of like tasting coffee, I'm gonna take the lid off, and this hasn't been unsealed since I roasted it. So first thing that you do is you look for the fragrance or the aroma. So you take off the lid. Now, hopefully you all started making hot water, so it needs to be near a boil. So get that going now, because I'm gonna start pouring pretty soon. We have to have a clock watch too about just a second. So take the lid off. Wow. Is that amazing or what? It smells like freshly roasted coffee. It smells like it's from Ethiopia. It's got some floral notes. When I say floral notes, it kind of reminds me of a bouquet of freshly cut flowers, or maybe even some dry spices, like not quite like cinnamon, but some cooking spice, but a very light floral type. So that's the fragrance. When you get aroma, that's when you add water to it. So we're going to go ahead and add water here in just a second. And I need to get a timer out. So I'm going to use my fancy device here, and I'm going to start pressing go here in a minute. So this water is hot. I'm going to transfer the hot water into the fancy little pouring kettle because, you know, someone told me I should do that. So this water is just like a little bit less than near boiling. So the first thing that you do is with the little container that I gave you, this is probably about 8 ounces and or so. We have 13.75 grams of coffee that's been ground at the bottom. And that was brewed proportionally. Okay, go ahead and start pouring your coffee if you have it, and pour it to the very top of this jar. So all that's in here is hot water, coffee, and the glass jar. So there's nothing to kind of get in the way of that flavor. So now we're going to let this sit for about 3.5 minutes. And after 3.5 minutes, we're going to break the crust, and then we're going to clean the top off. And then we're going to have to wait for maybe about 6 more minutes, or about, about 12 minutes afterwards. Then we start tasting the coffee, because right now it's too hot. And there's a bunch of grounds on the top of it. So this is kind of what you would call, I guess, traditionally cowboy coffee, or simply coffee that you wouldn't drink this way. But all of these particles, or all these like coffee grounds, are going to get heavy enough. They're going to fall to the bottom, and it's going to be a nice clean cup. So for the next minute or two, let me talk about the coffee that we're drinking today. It's called Ethiopia Agaro Nano Chala Lot Number 10. That's a lot of words. You can kind of see it here. There you go. And yeah, basically I was kind of just talking about Lincoln Calling Virtual Mini Fest, live stream cupping, and I will talk about more of the coffee today. So I went online, and this coffee I bought in green form, which means not roasted. And I got it through a smaller company called Coffee Shrub. They call it a shrub because coffee is neither a bush or a tree. It's sort of a shrub kind of in the middle. It kind of can grow up to about 10 feet, but traditionally it's a kind of a prune to where you can pick it up to about, 6-7 feet tall. By the way, that is a coffee plant, and so is that. Those are house plants. They will not produce much of anything, if ever. I've had the taller one for about 2 years, and it's growing like 2 new leaves. So it probably is not going to happen here. Anyway, so this Ethiopian coffee is it's actually from the area of Ethiopia where coffee is originated from, and just a little bit north of Jemma in the western part of Ethiopia. I've been there a couple times, and it's a beautiful high plateau area where the elevation, I think this was at 1,900 to 2,100 meters in feet. You could go ahead and Google that and do the translation or the measuring. But in meters, 2,100 meters is pretty high for coffee, and it really slows down the maturation process and increases the complexity and the flavors of the coffee by having such a slower maturation of that development of that fruit. So Nano Chala is a smaller cooperative coffee mill near Jera town in the Agaro area of Western Ethiopia. I don't think I've ever actually been to that spot, but a mill, that word mill means that's the collection point where all the farmers that have very small pieces of land take their cherry and they take it to the mill, whether they process it at home or at the mill. The mill is basically a collection point where then these larger lots are put together and then sold to buyers. So it's been about 3.5 minutes. So I got 30 more seconds, and then we'll break the crust. After we simply do this little tasting here, we're going to brew a normal cup of coffee with some fun little brewing gadgets that I like to use. So right now, actually, because it's wet and it's no longer a fragrance, but considered an aroma. So I'm going to go ahead and smell the aroma. There's a stone fruit and peach really stand out in this coffee, along with that floral spiciness. But this is not a darker roasted coffee either, so you're not going to get too much of those mesquite kind of like smoky flavors out of this. And it's going to be very kind of a delicate coffee experience as far as flavor goes. So I'm going to go ahead and break the crust. You take the spoon, you could be a soup spoon or whatnot, and you kind of cut it and you row it like you're rowing a boat. So you don't want to do a belly flop either. You want to kind of cut in there like you're diving, so you don't make a mess. So I'm going to go ahead and three stirs, and all of the coffee is now, all those particles are falling to the bottom, which is going to help clean up the cup. So we need a little bit of water to help us rinse our spoons. I didn't use the fancy kettle for that one. Oh well. So we have some nice clean spoons. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and clean the top. So if you're at home, you want to go ahead and take 2 spoons and kind of remove the foam and a couple little particles on top. Do it again. There you go. And now it is clean and pretty much ready to drink, but it's a little bit too hot. So we kind of have to wait for, about another 6 or 7 minutes. So if we have any questions, or any dialogue we'd like to do, we could do that now, or I can go ahead and continue to brew some coffee in a different fashion. What do you think?
Well, we have one question.
Oh my gosh, shoot. What is it?
Yes.
I'm excited.
Okay, well, I believe this is maybe the parent of one of our producers, but they ask, what's the grind size that you're using for that particular brewed coffee?
Oh my gosh, I think it's somewhere around 850 to 500 microns, but only about 50% of that within that range. But that doesn't mean much. I could also tell you medium, but that doesn't really define it much either. So I can get very technical about it, but I would definitely say, not to be, whatever. But yeah, it's definitely not too fine, and it's not like a French press. A French press, those particles will be too big and they'll float. So you kind of want to get it down to like your regular number 4 brewing Mr. Coffee Maker standard medium grind, which is probably around 650 microns, 750 microns. And you can get out a little testing sieve and trying to figure out what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's about medium. Thanks for the question. Anything else? Please.
Yeah, no, I think that's the only question that's come in so far, but
Okay.
I'm just in awe of all of your knowledge that you are just pulling out, for all of the minutia that has to do with every single component of this. Tell us, how did you even get into coffee, and how did you dive so deeply into it?
I was back in the 90s, I was in college as a anthropology, I got a degree in anthropology. After that, I joined the Peace Corps and I went to Honduras as a hillside farming agricultural extensionist up in the northwestern part of Honduras at about 2,000 meters in a cloud forest, and worked with farmers with cool weather crops like corn and beans and cabbage and broccoli and whatnot. But I actually didn't work with coffee, but I remember about 3 months out of the year, they would, the entire community would, all the men and the children of working age, whatever that was at the time, they would all leave and they would go harvest coffee in different parts of the country, and I'd be left behind with the grandmothers and the little children. But I always thought that was a really interesting impact on their lives, and that just kind of opened up a huge can of worms because of the global impact that coffee has. And so that's it. And then I came back to the United States, opened up a place called Drop Bay, and then I got into music and opened up a place called Spindle. I think some people might know about that one. Kind of moved on from that because I'm like, wait, I want to get back into anthropology and I really like coffee, so I'm going to go move to Seattle and get a job. I did that. I got a job at a great roasting company out there. I figured, well, no one's doing what they were doing out there in the Midwest, so I came back here and I opened up a place called Cultiva, and then I sold that place in 2011, and then got a couple other jobs, one in Minneapolis and one in Kansas City, and started buying a bunch of coffee for those roasting companies, and ended up traveling to about 20 different coffee growing countries several times around the world, and I've learned a lot since then. And then I was privileged enough to find a place at the Arbor Day Foundation, and that's where I am today. And also this co-roasting space, because other people should learn how to roast. It is difficult, but it's not impossible to do, and it's better locally roasted than it is in any other fashion or form, in my opinion. So.
Right, and that's what I was going to ask you is, why should people care about locally roasted coffee?
Well, if you want to, yeah, I mean, supporting the economy is obviously the biggest one. I mean, you could go off and buy coffee from a larger entity that has something that, I don't know, yeah, that's not locally based, and that money will leave the economy here. Um, but if supporting local, you're going to get more diversity in your culture as far as new ideas, better things to do. More competition is always good, and if it's local competition, you can feel the creativity really grow and steep into people's consciousness here. So without that local competition or without that local creativity, we become more stale as a culture and a society, and we become it's all going to be ended up big box stores and Amazon. So that's not really fun. But I think shopping locally is really important. I don't do it all the time myself. I eat a lot at home. I have eaten more at home than I ever have, and I do need to get out there and start eating out more. I never thought I'd say that.
Right, I
But,
know. It's like doing your duty, right?
But I did start a garden. I love the community crops, and that's like one of those great things about Lincoln that's been around and will stay around for a long time. So go crops.
Absolutely.
It's time to sip this coffee. I got to drink.
Great. I was just going to say, dive
Yeah.
in, and then I have a couple other questions, but we can save that to the end.
Yeah. Okay. This will only take a minute. I'll call you here in a second.
Okay.
I got a coaster. This is an old table. It's made out of wood, so I got to protect it from the heat. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this spoon and fill it up here, and then I'm going to slurp it. This is going to be hopefully really loud, and it's going to hopefully shock you or at least make you laugh a little bit. But this is kind of like the slurping, and you want to make it nice and bright, and you want to aspirate and aerate your palate so you can get all of the flavors to hit all of your taste buds. So let's go ahead and do that. And then you spit it out in a spittoon. That's kind of gross, but that's what you do. Because if you drank all this, you'd get really caffeinated. And, I mean, not just one cup, but like I've been on tables where we've had 40 to 80 cups of coffee, and you got to spit some of that out. So you have a spittoon. All right, I'm going to do it again. It's definitely a lighter roast. You tell it it's freshly roasted, probably a couple, I know I roasted this a couple days ago, but it has like that really fresh roasted flavor to it. It's definitely floral. It's got a little bit of that stone fruit. The body, it's somewhat of a mild body with a medium to light acidity. And when I mean acidity, I mean like a citric, like a fruit acidity. And then the finish is medium to short. This is not a big body coffee. This is kind of reminds me of like a lemongrass black tea. Light roasted coffee from Yirgacheffe with a little floral notes to it. So yeah, it's definitely like I would say like a session beer if it was a beer, and definitely not an IPA or a stout or anything like that. So yeah, it's a little jar. It's nice. Yeah, I could drink this all day. It's not hard to drink. I probably wouldn't suggest it for adding cream and sugar, because some of the cream and that sugar could counteract with some of the fruit acidity. So like when you have a really bright citric kind of coffee, adding cream to it will make it curdle. It's like putting milk in grapefruit. It's not a good idea. Well, for some people might like that, but otherwise it might curdle. So that's why sometimes when you see people are like, oh no, don't put cream in it, it won't work. There's a reason behind that. They're not trying to just be mean, but if they're coming off mean, they're coming off mean. But anyway, it shouldn't be. Baristas should be nice. I like baristas. They are the essential aspect to the entire coffee supply chain. So if baristas aren't making a living, we have very little to sell, and we have very little to talk about, because they're the last face and the last person to touch that coffee before it gets in your hand. So tip your barista, and yeah, we all have good and bad days. So if they're in a bad mood, it happens. All right, that's all I got. Any more questions?
Yes, we have lots of questions. Well, thank you. And thank you so much for that demonstration. The tasting demonstration with the sip was extremely educational. So
was it loud enough? Did you hear it?
So wonderfully loud.
Yeah, that was the whole point. Keep it going.
You got it. Okay, well, we have some questions from our audience. So it looks like we have Vince from the coffee roaster. So your coffee
hey,
roasting
Vince.
community
What's
is
up?
here. He wants to know, do you have any ideas on how our coffee roasting community can connect and grow together? Thanks, Vince.
Yeah, come on over to my house, or I'll come over to your house, and we can jam live. We can do some live stream because I got like this organ right here. Can you see it? This organ?
I see a corner of the organ, yes.
And I got a guitar with a loop pedal and a reverb pedal, and it's all hooked up to this like mixing board that's giving me a lot of troubles, but I have a nice mic too. But we could write songs about roasting coffee.
How many people are roasting locally here, do you think?
Oh yeah. So I want to give a shout out to all the ones that I can think of. Okay, I'm just gonna. No, I can't. I shouldn't do that. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Well, Vince at the Coffee Roaster on 56th and Old Cheney, he's been a wonderful asset to the community, and it's a privilege to know. Cultiva is still around and doing exceptionally well. Also, so is the Mill. They've been at it since the late 70s. I know I'm forgetting way too many roasters in town. Wow. Anybody else want to do a shout out? I know that. What's the one north of town? It starts with an M. Mojava. There we go.
Mojava.
I am so
yeah.
sorry. I almost forgot to mention Mojava with Paul. Yeah, and they've been around for a long time too. So, and then there's Are You Nuts Aromas? They are roasting coffee, and I think that of course Handmade, Danielle, and Meadowlark is starting to do that, so that's great. But I think that there are quite a few more starting to kind of surface in Meta Coffee. I'm sorry.
Meta, cool. Is there any place that a person who is curious about buying locally roasted coffee could go? Like, is there a page online that gathers that information in one place?
Funny you mentioned that. I just started doing that at theroastingspace.com. If you go to roastingspace.com, you'll find the roasters that are at least at that space. I haven't really opened it up to other roasters, but might consider that. I do like pre-competitiveness, but at some point it can get kind of crazy. But on roastingspace.com, you can see a link for Handmade Coffee, and you can see a link to Meadowlark's shopping cart, and you can also see a link to Mosaic Coffee, obviously. And I'm selling one coffee right now, and that's pretty much it. Well, actually, 2 coffees, a dark roast and then a medium one. But yeah, I don't think that there is, but I'd be an advocate to find that.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, actually, someone is curious about your Mosaic dark roast.
Yeah.
I believe that's actually Vince also wanting to know if you could tell us a little bit about Mosaic's dark roast.
The dark roast is kind of, the origins that are within that dark roast coffee will fluctuate and vary a little bit depending on what I'm offering at the lighter roast. So this Ethiopia Agaro right now, about 30% of this is mixed in with the flores that I have, and that's a fully washed coffee from Indonesia, sourced through Coffee Shrub, and I blend those two together, and that happens to be kind of really similar to like a mocha Java blend, although because mocha is from the port of Yemen, which is similar to Ethiopian coffee, right across the Red Sea, and then Java is an island in Indonesia, and Flores is next to Java, but it's definitely has a different roast profile than that. But that was kind of the thought behind it, is kind of making it like a mocha Java blend. But that's just this week. Next week, I've got a coffee from Honduras coming in that'll probably add to that dark roast, and then and also one from Sulawesi, Tuarco Jaya. It's a mill in Sulawesi that's also doing fully washed coffees, owned by a Japanese company that is putting out some extraordinary coffee. And that coffee is green coffee, and it's for sale for everybody. So Vince, if you want any of that coffee, it's for sale. Mojava still. Everybody who wants any of this green coffee before it's roasted, I'm more than happy to sell that out and see different interpretations of that same coffee through roasting, because roasting impacts flavor probably more than anything other than brewing. So yeah.
Great.
So,
Well, it looks like some folks are very interested in the idea of a coffee jam session between you and Vince. So perhaps that's something you can keep working at. Maybe next time we have a Stream-a-thon, there can be a music coffee jam session. What do you think?
Yeah, I play the Wurlitzer bass pedals with my feet, and then I play my Fender with normally.
I love it.
And I'm working on A sharp or B flat kind of stuff right now. But then also I don't really know how to read music, so there's some letters in there.
There you go. We have a couple more questions. Let's see if we can rapid fire these. Okay. Can you talk a little bit about water quality for coffee?
Water quality is everything. If you have crappy water, you're going to have crappy tasting coffee. So what that means is that if you have really hard water coming out of your tap, it could buffer and change some of the attributes of the coffee and how that impacts the flavor. So having a nice clean source that is not distilled necessarily, it could be distilled, but with distilled water, oh my gosh, this is a whole nother hour. But there's some mineral content in water that needs to be there to help buffer some of the acidity in the coffee. So water quality is important. If you doubt if your coffee's tasting a little off, go to the grocery store, buy a gallon or take one of those 5-gallon jugs and get a refill and just get some purified water. And distilled water is not the end of the day. It's actually kind of nice. It's so pure. But anyway,
great. No, that's really helpful information. Okay, last audience question. Do you have any suggestions for how to find coffee that's grown responsibly?
Do your research. And I would say there is, I think about that question all the time, every day for the last 5 years. And I've come up with a lot of different answers and ways. And like if you purchasing coffees that are organic with the USDA logo that's, certified organic through, let's say OCA, which is another gem of Lincoln, Organic Crop Improvement Association based in Lincoln, an international organization that certifies coffee all around the world. It's kind of cool that's here. Also, coffees that have been certified fair trade are nice, but and also verified. Arbor Day coffee, obviously. I've spent a lot of time researching where our farmers are from and what kind of activities are going on at the farm level. So I think direct knowledge and participation in those supply chains are really important on understanding what sustainability is and what it means to the people that you're buying your coffee from. Sustainability is a word that can be abused very easily, but I think that it is also very. It depends. Like not all organic coffee is sustainable. I think that's an easy way out. Just to say, oh, it's fair trade, it's organic, it's sustainable. I think you need, to be more responsible, you might have to look a little bit deeper and read as much as you can about this coffee. So this coffee from Ethiopia, if you go on Coffee Shrub, he's got like 3 paragraphs talking about, oh boy, I don't know. The program was in, yeah.
Well, that's a really good, helpful resource. Coffee Shrub, thank you so much. Yeah. We are about out of time. There are a couple more questions. So, John, if you're up to it, maybe you could jump on YouTube and Facebook and answer some of the questions. I know some folks are wanting a few tips on French press, cold brew, and some of your favorite things. But we'll go ahead and wrap it for now.
This is it. Coffee in a pour over. This is what I use. You put it on top of a cup. You put some hot water in it, and you're done.
And there it is. Yes, John, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. We're so grateful for your time and knowledge. Thank you so much. Everyone find John, and you can visit the Roasting Place online. Thank you, John.
Roasting Space.
The Roasting Space.
Like outer space, but roasting space.
Roasting Space.
You got
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye. Thank you all so much for staying with us with our Stream-a-thon. We have a few more wonderful programs to go. Just a quick reminder that we are doing this because we're raising money to support the music and arts community here in Lincoln. Please consider donating to Lincoln Calling by visiting givetolincoln.com. Next, I'd like to welcome Brianne Key. She is a certified massage therapist, a small business owner, and the founder of Sacred Transitions. She is a fierce advocate for radical self-care, which she accomplishes through practicing and educating people on various healing therapies. She's also one of my best friends. Everyone, please welcome Brianne. Hi, honey. We can't quite hear you. Say something. Keep talking a little bit. Okay, we are gonna take you off. Our wonderful producer, Matt, is gonna privately chat with you and see if we can figure that out. I'll just give you all a little bit more information about the Lincoln Calling Stream-a-thon. So hopefully, if you're joining us now, you have been able to experience some of the wonderful programs that our education team has put on. Education is a huge part of Lincoln Calling. We are offering you these programs via live stream on YouTube and on Facebook, but normally we would be offering these to you in person. Over the course of Lincoln Calling's history, we've had wonderful panels exploring lots of different areas, including sustainability, entrepreneurship, innovation, as well as wellness, and so many wonderful things. So obviously we can't be together in person, but we are here together now. So please feel free to interact with us. Let us know what kind of questions you have. We're always available on social media. So if there are things in any of these educational sectors that we work, sustainability, wellness, innovation, entrepreneurship, if there's anything that you'd like to learn about, if there's expertise that you'd like to hear from, we would love to hear from you. So don't be a stranger. Drop those suggestions on any of our social media accounts. Let us know what you're lacking and what you're needing. We would love to be of service to you. Now, in addition to our educational workshops, we're also offering music this weekend. Last night, we had over a dozen musicians on 3 stages, aka Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We've been so fortunate to partner with the Basement Creators Network and with the Storm Cellar to produce some safe, socially distant concerts. We'll be back with more of that content later this afternoon. Make sure that you check your schedules for some really wonderful artistic programming this evening. I am checking in with our wonderful control panel right now. It looks like Matt, our producer, is working with Brianne, so I know that she'll be in very shortly, and we'll get going with our wonderful conversation on self-massage and self-care in these trying and unusual times. I do want to remind you that this is a fundraising stream-a-thon. We are trying to raise money to support the local arts and music community here in Lincoln. If you can, any donation amount makes a huge difference. You can visit givetolincoln.com anytime during the month of May. Maybe you haven't gotten paid yet. Maybe you're going to wait for another couple weeks or so. If there's anything that you can give before the end of May, it counts for more. This month is fueled by the Lincoln Community Foundation's Give to Lincoln program. Lincoln Community Foundation has asked lots of philanthropists and stakeholders in our community right here in Lincoln to pool their funds in order to match funds so that we can distribute all of that wonderful support across the city. So if you donate now, it counts for more than if you donate later. So please consider visiting givetolincoln.com, donating to Lincoln Calling, and while you're there, scroll through. There are so many wonderful, worthy, and necessary nonprofits that need your support. We love to partner with those folks, and so we'd love to see your support go to them as well.
Try again.
Oh, I'm
Can you hear
hearing
me?
you now, my wonderful friend. Welcome, Miss Brianne. You
Hello.
are a wonderful, wonderful resource for people as it responds to self-care advocacy, and just being your true, authentic self. I want to thank you first and foremost for that. But now, go ahead and take it away. What do you got?
Thank you so much, Erin. I appreciate you greatly. I'll start real quick with some thank yous. We want to say thank you to our sponsor, Aloe. We want to say thank you to Spencer Munson for organizing everything. You're amazing. Thanks for everything that you do. Miss Erin Poor, it's wonderful to be doing another presentation with you. I think this is our third year in a row together as moderator and presenter. So I appreciate our ride or die situation here. I want to say thank you to Shen and Claire for all of the organization of getting all of us night market people together. I appreciate you greatly, and the tech wizard, Matt Knapp. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just to reiterate, this is a fundraiser, so whatever you can donate, doesn't matter how much, how little, anything, everything counts and is greatly appreciated and goes right back into the community that loves and supports you as you love and support it. And you can go to givetolincoln.com for that. Getting into my segment, I think I got everything. Yes, okay, hi. I want to start off with recognizing that we are in a pandemic, and I haven't even been able to see a lot of you in person or very much at all. So all of my Lincoln friends, I see you, I love you. I'm trying to stalk you on all the things. I'm trying to stay in touch as much as possible while we're practicing safe distancing. I appreciate y'all. Hopefully I will be back in the mix in June. So keep a lookout for emails and social media posts. I appreciate you all, and I think we're all really gonna get through this, and we're all in this together. I think it's really amazing how we are all adjusting and adapting to the current circumstances with having a whole Stream-a-thon, a whole beautiful annual gathering of music, creators, local, loving, awesome things, all digital. I think that's really a great pivot and a great way that we've managed to cultivate what really means a lot to us and still support each other in a time when a lot of our businesses might be displaced. A lot of us are essential workers still having to go out into the mix. So I appreciate everyone for being here. I appreciate you for showing up. I love you. And going in on that note, part of my experiences with Lincoln Calling over the last 3 or 4 years have just been phenomenal. I've been able to collaborate as a healer and a community person, mover and shaker, and massage therapist for a few years. And I've been able to also celebrate and enjoy Lincoln Calling as a whole, just on my own, and with my friends outside of business. And it's always such a very, very good time. Always such a good grounding, lighthearted, everybody's dancing, everybody's supporting each other. It's really beautiful. And although I miss that aspect of it, I really enjoy seeing the different ways that we are cultivating safety, that we're cultivating consciousness and presence, while being stuck at home, or being at home, living our best lives. A couple of my favorite moments at Lincoln Calling would have to be Lion Babe and Lee Kelly 47. That was a good year. They're all good years. That was a really good year. That was a really good side-to-side, back-to-back concert and celebration. I cried during Lion Babe, just had a cathartic standing there, just taking it all in deep gratitude, and just cried. It was beautiful. And I feel like we've all had 1 or 1,000 of those experiences anytime that we're together in a crowd, watching each other, loving on each other, celebrating. That's what Lincoln Calling means to me. And being able to pour so much energy and graciousness back into the community in this way is definitely something I want to protect as much as possible. So going from there, I'll dive into, I'm going to be going over with you guys how to soothe your nervous system, a little nervous system cool down, if you will. The nervous system is responsible for our responses to life, triggers, stress, trauma, anything, any response at all is typically controlled by sympathetic or parasympathetic, fight or flight, I have to do this, I need to go here, how do I protect, how do I do all the things and the moves, or you're in that parasympathetic space of sleeping or meditating, where you're not in a conscious space of ego and perception and doing all the work that you do in this physical body. So I want to talk to you a little bit about those things. These are my little notes. Got them all organized. trying to give you all the tidbits in a short period of time, so bear with me. So we'll start with the vagus nerves. The vagus nerve is, vagus is Latin for wanderer, meaning it's a wandering nerve. Not that the nerve wanders itself, but it is the longest and largest nerve in the body. And it stems from the back of the neck through the cranial nerves up to the brain and all the way down the back of the throat. It's connected to your vocal cords. So when you are singing, chanting, meditating, and making sound and emitting, you're activating your vagus nerve. You're stimulating it, you're resetting it. It connects directly to your diaphragm and your lungs. So when you are in a place of anxiety, when you're in a place of worry, when you're in a place of fear, it is best to channel, going back and focusing on your breath. Don't focus on anything else if you can. Focus on your breath. Focus on engaging the abs, but also filling the belly, expanding the diaphragm, dropping the shoulders, softening the jaw, softening the neck so you're not just stiff like a board. You want to be able for the neck to be able to just move in either direction on a whim without resistance. And in doing that, you are stimulating and nurturing the vagus nerve. You're saying, it's okay. We don't actually have to respond like that right now. It's all good. And coming down from whatever space of hyper anxious, hypertension that you were at. It does take like a little bit of practice. It's not always the first choice, the easiest choice to just go into that space of breath. But being in trauma recovery myself and a trauma-informed therapist, and very inclusive at that, I find that being able to share the tips that I use every day to hone in my anxiety, my worry, my fear, doing the work that I have to do, we can't give from an empty cup. So as a person or a therapist, I can't give from an empty cup. So we have to do what I call radical self-sabbatical. When you take uninterrupted, and I know that is not a privilege that we all have, whether it's before the kids get up, when the kids go down, whatever, what have you, somewhere in there in the day, or as many days as you can muster it, 15 to 30 minutes where you are needed by nothing, you are needed by no one, you just turn it off for just a second so that you can just tune in to what it is that you need right here in that moment. Do you feel safe? Do you feel nourished? Are you hungry? Do you need water? Do you need a bath? What do you need? Do you need a hug? If you're blessed enough to be quarantined with people like I am, we're quarantined together, so hug, a little bit of resting hands on the shoulders. There's even moments where I know we're working through panic. I know we're working through the fact that we can't control a lot right now. So the nervous system is overworked. It is on overdrive. It is on alert for many different reasons, for many different people, whether we're in a pandemic or not. And so with that in mind, it is really, really wonderful to be able to take a step back, ground with your feet on the ground, or sit in a space where you just feel safe, calm, where you don't have to tend to anything right away. Sorry, notifications. And you can just tune in to whatever is needed right here, right now, in this moment. I think that is sometimes some of the best self-care that we can do is doing nothing. It is a challenge. Not everybody can do it. Some people can. Sometimes you just have to sit with it and fluster around. Sometimes meditation doesn't look like sitting in a traditional manner. Sometimes it's doing dishes or doing art, moving therapy. I like to do little Facebook Lives where I dance to music and inspire people to move through the stagnancy, because I know we're at home way more than we probably would be. And so for some of us, our schedules aren't much different, but the restriction of feeling like you have to be inside and at home all the time can be overwhelming in itself. So it's okay to just be compassionate, give yourself a break, understand that you can't do everything. Some days it's just going to look like lying in bed and doing some work from bed. I've had to do that a couple of days this week with migraines. Got a lot done, was super productive, but physically, I needed to just be down. And sometimes that's what it means when your nervous system is overworked. When that vagus nerve needs like, whoop, whoop, reset, reel it in, calm down, and we even have to do that self-regulation and that co-regulation with ourselves. So located at the back of the neck, connected to the vocal cords, connected to the diaphragm. It helps control the messages of just going over this fight or flight or rest and digest. It connects to your digestive system. It can connect to help shift what happens with your adrenals, which I have to do a lot of extra work to like maintain adrenals and adrenal wellness. I'm getting what I'm calling quarantine fatigue, where I know, again, we're indoors a lot more, kind of like hiding out in our little caves. And that means not a lot of sunlight. And that means sometimes feeling like you have seasonal depression, even though it's almost summer. And so with that being said, it can feel like I just really need to do something to anchor and not feel like, so clouded, so stuck inside, so restricted. So I like to focus on the breath, focus on expanding with dropping the shoulders, heart chakra up to the sky. Your chin doesn't need to go with you, but keeping your chin and neck kind of in a neutral space where you can have some mobility, have some flexibility. The vagus nerve can influence, because it influences heart rate, digestion, and essentially your entire mental wellness as well as your adrenals. It's something that I feel like it's really, really vital for us to take a few of these tips today and be able to use them on a daily basis, and taking that 15 to 30 minutes where we just sit and tune into self-sabbatical time. Vagus nerve reset, cold therapy. In some of my services, I offer cryotherapy. Usually this ball made of titanium is usually in the freezer. It gets really, really cold. I do a bit of cold therapy. I follow it up with the heat therapy with hot stones. And then from there, we do some intuitive work and grounding work. It's really wonderful. The sessions are just as healing for me as they are for the clients. But for the purposes of today, I did not freeze it, but it is still kind of cold. So it's nice to go over areas to relieve superficial tension. In place of this, you could have a tennis ball. You can also, I will sit on the couch and just zone out to a movie or play a meditative playlist or just some ambient chill hop. And I will take this or a tennis ball or what else do they call them? They call it lacrosse balls. And I will rub it all around my chest while breathing into the stretches, helping with superficial tension, helping with flushing the lymph. Doing those kinds of things with self-massage and self-touch are also beautiful, beautiful ways that you can tune in, ground into your body, all the way into your body, and soothe your vagus nerve and soothe and transmute that like fight or flight to rest and digest without a whole lot of effort. I like to lay on the couch, zone out, and I will have a one of those socks or like a fabric sack that's filled with little buckwheat seeds or things that you can freeze easily, or a plastic bag full of ice wrapped in a towel. And I will put that on my neck. Cold therapy over your vagus nerve, the back of your neck, is a really, really wonderful way. Your vagus nerve will respond to that very well. So it's a wonderful way to soothe, to reset. It's a little bit soothing having that shock of cold on such a vulnerable area. And you also come in tune with how much tension you're constantly holding in your shoulders, and that we're always kind of just doing this a little bit more and more and more. So it's a good way to bring you back into your body so that you can adjust what you're doing, take stock of that present moment, drop your shoulders, relax your jaw, to do those little things for yourself. So cold therapy, either one of these things, or a neck wrap that can be chilled, put it on the back of your neck, or have something on your temples, and maybe some cucumbers over the eyes, just because that actually feels exceptional. I don't care who you are. It's wonderful. Do it. A little treat, make it a little spa day. And doing those things, just leaning back, kicking back, maybe a foot soak with some magnesium flakes or magnesium lotion, which There's some on sale right now at Natural Grocers, wonderful grocery store, health food store that I used to work at. Super accessible, very affordable. This magnesium lotion is extraordinary for helping with relaxation, for helping with sleep, for helping with calm. I like to rub it on my feet or rub it on my neck right after a foot soak, or right before bed, or right when I wake up. It's absolutely extraordinary, and it was like less than $5 on sale right now. So you can find those little things and treat yourself. Do those little things like you would, like if you were your own massage therapist. I guess like we've elevated to that point where I'm going to teach you guys how to be your own massage therapist when you need it, which is pretty daily. I need it daily, so you need it daily. Doing these things, focusing on the breath, expanding the belly, and tending to a bit of cold therapy and holding the cold there for like anywhere from 30 seconds to about 10 minutes, and just relaxing into that cold feeling. You shouldn't be freezing and super uncomfortable, but it should definitely be a beautiful, elevating experience that just helps you relax a little bit more into yourself, into your emotional and spiritual body, and ground, and be able to let that vagus nerve just swim around like a little jellyfish instead of being a stuck, like stressed out thing. Neck, spine, support and release. So we're gonna go over a couple of tips for self-massage. And with this, I'll have Matt, if you can play my first photo, I believe it is. The very first one. I have a couple of images to help you guys at home have some visuals for giving yourself a little self-massage. So we're going to start with having your hands interlaced, your fingers interlaced, where your thumbs can be kind of loose, but you have pressure and stability right here. And then we practice rubbing the back of our neck and up the back to the back of our heads, right beneath our skulls, and down around our shoulders, right in this little crook. We'll practice massaging that space with the right here with the heel of our palm, and right here going into our forearm and our wrist. You can get a lot of pressure. It's very stabilizing. So when you do that, you're welcome to get yourself a little bit loose, feeling a little stagnant. If you need to do a couple of little wrist circles to get yourself ready for a little bit of deep tissue work on yourself. You're going to pull your arms back behind your head. And then I believe if you play the second one, Matt, thank you so much. When you bring your hands back behind your head, when you're in this position, your neck is going to fit right in that groove. Your thumb should be loose, but right in that groove where your heels of your hands are kissing, you're going to clasp those fingers. There you go. And you're going to and you're going to rest your neck. You're going to lean a little bit of your body weight into those palms of your hands. Only keeping that pressure, keep applying that pressure with your interlaced fingers together. And that way your thumbs, you don't have tense thumbs. Thumbs should be pointing downward, down towards your back. And you can apply as much pressure as you want and go upward. Yes, using the heel, the palm of the hand, and the heel of the hand, and a little bit of the wrist. And we can go in an upward motion. And when you're doing this, it helps to elongate. You're helping to kind of undo the shrinkage that's been happening gradually over the day or over the time that you have been just being and living and doing your best thing. Matt, if you play the next one, please. I think that's the last one. So as you're doing these exercises, paying attention to how you're feeling, tuning into your breath, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth if you can. One of these is how your thumbs should be looking when you're doing it. They should be able to be loose. Loose thumbs, if you want to flick around, there you go. So you don't want to have any pressure or tension in your thumbs when you're doing that exercise with your hands behind your head. You want to be able to have loose and wonderfully agile thumbs, and you just want to keep your fingers interlaced. And in that pressure, in that little interlocking of the fingers and using the heel of the palms, you can apply as much pressure as feels comfortable while leaning into and creating resistance for yourself. Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate your help. And then one more tip. If you guys need to do a little bit of stretching, I meant to do this one before I went into that whole spiel, but we'll do it now. This one is for a little bit of assisted oblique and rib cage stretching. So if you'd like, you can, it's just like a scarf from my room, super fashionable, thrifted when thrifting was a thing. So sad. Okay, get it nice and tight. And then you can definitely put your hands all the way over your head, whatever feels good to you. The key is to make sure that you are engaging your core, that your belly is able to expand, that your diaphragm is able to expand. Your heart center should be aiming upward towards the ceiling. Your neck and jaw should be in neutral and relaxed. Your shoulders should be dropped. Oh, so sorry, guys, if you lost me. My bad, I'm coming back. Sorry about that. Shoulders should be down, neck and jaw and neutral spine. And with that, if you can put your hands all the way up above your head, keeping those shoulders dropped, and you can lean to each side and hold for a couple of breaths. If it's a little bit of a strain to have your arms all the way above your head, you can bring them forward a little bit, like a 45-degree angle, and that one works really well and nicely as well. And we just hold each side for a few minutes, and that just helps get you do some side to sides. That helps you get a little bit more limber, a little bit more ready to hold poses and give yourself that bit of relaxation. And as you are applying that pressure on that vagus nerve around that whole neck region, you're also welcome to use. Just do it. My bad, guys. Falling apart. I like to use CBD salves. They're pretty wonderful. If you know anything about me, I do specialize in CBD topical massage. And I usually use local creators and local herbalists, depending on where I'm at. I live in Kansas City, but when I travel to Lincoln, I also engage with everybody in that community as well. So wherever I'm at, I try to seek out creators, local herbalists, and all the beautiful people, and we trade and we take care of one another. This one is a salve from out here in Kansas City from a wonderful Harvest Moon Botanica, wonderful collective of ladies of color. Really beautiful message, really beautiful mission. They make wonderful stuff, and so I use their products. And so when you're doing that, you can put some on the palm of your hands and bring your hands behind your neck and engage in everything that we just talked about and demoed. And in that time, you can also bring it down to your shoulders. You can give yourself a massage with your wrists and your hands. When I'm in my private sessions with people, doing remote sessions, and we usually do some self-massage with the hands and the wrists and the neck and a few other things. So I feel like I'm ready to wrap up. If anybody has any questions, if we have time for questions. How did I do, Erin?
Wonderfully. I was loving it. I was definitely self-massaging along with you. So thank you for that demonstration. I will say to the audience that Brianne is the one and only massage therapist I've ever worked with. So I may be biased. Maybe not, though. Not sure. She's truly phenomenal, and she has brought my awareness of my body to such a heightened level. So much, much, much love and gratitude to you, Brianne. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the topics we've touched on before. You mentioned that you and I have been a part of several conversations over Lincoln Calling's history. And one of the conversations we had last year was about self-love. And I want to talk to you and kind of ask, how does self-love connect to self-care as it pertains to massage therapies?
Self-love pertaining to therapeutic body work and like therapeutic self-care self-love and self-care they're like team. You need them. You need both. You know, you need to understand how to care and nourish the things that your body and your mind and your heart respond to, and the things that maybe can kind of come secondary as support for the primary things. And the primary things you can engage in every day as often as possible. And the secondary things you kind of space out and do those as needed. So like, I consider like as every time that I practice my self-care, and every time I'm consistent with it, or even when I'm not consistent with it, every time I can show up, I decide and act on showing up for myself. I consider that an act of self-love.
Absolutely.
If that answers the question.
Yeah, totally. Now, you have talked with us a little bit about a number of different healing therapies. Tell us, how did you come to healing? Tell us a little bit about what your journey has been, and potentially where you hope to take your business, Sacred Transitions, in the future.
With Sacred Transitions, I feel like it's definitely beautiful to have the community connections that I have developed, like being on this path. And I honestly can't tell you where I think I'm going to end up, or even where I want to. Every minute and every month, I feel more evolved than the minute and the month before. And I don't think that there should be like a definite like pinpoint. It feels okay not to have full control or full say. But I feel I've definitely introduced taking on a new platform into my life, TikTok. And I've recently been contracted to provide educational TikToks on my page there, the Goddess of Healing, GAWDESS, because God, and in that, it's a budding opportunity that just started. I've only got a few videos up, but it's a budding opportunity, a creative learning fund that was created solely for the purpose of uplifting small businesses and entrepreneurs that were displaced by COVID, because I have not been able to massage in person. Like a lot of my business, like most healers and massage therapists, all of that came to a halt. Just like, nope, can't do it anymore. I'm going to hold my phone, if you guys will, because my phone is dying and I'm going to plug it in. There we go. Sorry about that. Hi. So with that, it was imperative that I start thinking of different ways to be innovative, to still be able to provide and serve and do what I needed to do, to perform my calling and to show up for my community, but I had to do it in a way that would be safe. So, we pulled up our bootstraps and just started experimenting until we found the avenues in which we could serve in this kind of revolutionary shift that's happened that none of us could really plan for, and probably didn't know it would look this way.
Absolutely. Well, I've been a huge admirer of the ways that you have completely pivoted and offered so many things online. I've tuned into some of the things coming out of the Monarch Monastery, which is the wonderful name for your communal home that you live with, along with our next guest, BJ Healer, who will be doing a sound meditation. But I've really admired the ways that you all have come together in your own home community and then opened that home up to all of us across the planet who can't be with you, who miss you so much, and who really greatly benefit from your healing therapies. So I just really admire that pivot, and thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you. It's an honor. Everybody takes care of me, and I just do what I can to give it right back.
Yeah. Well, Brianne, this was an extraordinary session. Thank you so much for leading us through these activities. I learned a lot, and I can't wait to work on my own self. This was so great. This felt so great. So thank you for empowering me to care for myself, especially in a time such as this. So thank you, Miss Brianne. Brianne Key is the owner of Sacred Transitions. You can follow her on Instagram, and you can find her on TikTok as a new healing ambassador. Thank you so much, Brianne.
Thank you.
Bye. So, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for our workshop series for the Lincoln Callings Give to Lincoln Stream-a-thon. We have one more session left. Our next session will be presented by VJ Herbert. But before we do that, I wanted to just go through and thank everyone who has participated so far. We had a wonderful time talking with Kat Weise from the Lincoln South Downtown organization. She took us through some really great drawing activities, and I know that I'll be excited to use those in the future as well. We also talked with Tim and Grant from Hawley, Hamlet, and saw some really great ideas for turning your lawn into workable, usable agricultural space. We learned too from Megan McGuffey from Community Crops about ways that you can work alongside your neighbors in cultivating food sustainability and sovereignty in your own neighborhood. It was so great to hear from Francisca Beltran from the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights, talking to us about knowing our rights and understanding our responsibility as bystanders. We're so grateful for John Ferguson of Mosaic Coffee, who took us through that really wonderful multi-sensorial coffee tasting, coffee cupping experience. And then most recently with Brianne Key of Sacred Transitions, talking us through some nervous system cool downs and some self-massage. So I want to say a huge special thank you to everyone who has shared their skills. Of course, we have one more session left from VJ. I also want to thank you all for tuning in and being supporters of Lincoln Calling. Your presence means so much to us. We've been here for 17 years, hoping to elevate the culture in this wonderful city that we call home, and we wouldn't be here without you. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your support. As you know, this is a Stream-a-thon, and we are raising money to support Lincoln Calling through Give to Lincoln. Any money that we raise through this month of fundraising of Give to Lincoln, we will give right back to musicians, artists, and educators like you've been experiencing all weekend. So please consider any amount makes a huge difference. Visit givetolincoln.com and find Lincoln Calling. Now, I'm going to introduce VJ Herbert, who will be leading us through a sound meditation. I'm not going to come back after this meditation is done. I'm just going to let you freely float at the end of this sound meditation, and you can end the stream whenever feels best for you. So it's been a pleasure to spend this much time with you. My name is Erin. I'm a member of the Lincoln Calling team. Huge shout out to Lincoln Calling and all of the wonderful team members who have put this together. Huge shout out to the artists, to the educators, to the producers, and to the photographers. It takes a huge community to pull off an effort such as this, and we're so, so grateful. So, our last session. VJ Herbert will be offering a sound meditation. VJ Herbert is a multidisciplinary artist with a focus in healing. He is the co-founder of Celestial Sound Ministries, which offers healing through sound and vibration. Today, VJ will lead us through a sound meditation, and you are welcome to participate in any capacity that you can. Please enjoy, and remember, please give.
Hi, I am VJ Healer. I am a music minister at Ebenezer AME in Kansas City, Missouri. And I'm also the founder of Celestial Sounds, a ministry that uses frequencies, vibrations, and sounds as a modality for healing the mind, body, and the spirit. Before I go any further, I just want to say thank you to all the coordinators and planners of Lincoln Calling. It is an honor to be a part of this wellness platform and to share my bliss with Lincoln. So thank you so much. And also for all of you who are watching today, thank you so much for supporting and listening to sound. I hope that this will inspire you and maybe have you go out and get your own instruments and play with sound and heal the world. That's my prayer anyway. So let's get into it. So what is sound healing? What's a sound meditation? Everybody's talking about it. People are doing it. It's on the rise in popularity. Well, sound actually has been around since the beginning of time. A lot of monotheistic belief systems, as well as other spiritual systems around the world, believe that the creator or creators use sound and vibrations as one of the creative tools to create the reality that we exist in. From the gongs of Pan Asia to the chimes and bells of Europe, to the drums and kalimbas of Africa, didgeridoos of Oceania, and the native flutes of North America, our ancestors have been using sound and sound instruments as a way to tap in or connect with themselves, with their community, and also with the eternal divine. And so that's the foundation of sound. It's no different today as it was for our ancestors. The true beauty of having a sound healing experience is not only the auditory listening experience, but also the tactile physical vibrations that can be felt in or around the body. Now, there have been many different reports from people who have experienced sound healing, and that's the word I'm going to use right now because it does have healing properties. What? We have sound everywhere. Yeah, it does. People who have attended sound meditations generally tend to report that they feel less tension in the body, dissipation of anxiety and depression. And there are people who even speak about pain leaving the body, menstrual pain, arthritis, people who have fibromyalgia. There are even people who have had knee replacements who say, and that's painful, who say that after the knee replacement, that sound and vibration actually helped dissipate the pain in their bodies. Now that's powerful. Whether it's binaural beats, theta or delta waves, crystal bowls and tuning forks, or just the sound of the waves of the ocean, or the bubbling brook, or even the birds singing. Sound healings can happen anywhere, everywhere. All you have to do is be still, breathe, and listen. Speaking of, breathing is the foundation of meditation. It is how we root to the earth. It's how we root and connect with our bodies. It's how we clear our minds. It's how we open our hearts. It's all through the breath. And so I want you to be aware of your breath as we're going through this meditation today. And I want to invite you to take deep belly breaths, activating your diaphragm, because that is important for healing. I think Brianne Key talked about that earlier, or she has spoken to me about using the diaphragm as a way to help heal the nervous system. So it's going to be important for us to use those big belly breaths, the breaths that babies breathe while we're in this meditation. Breath also connects us to all that is, the past and our ancestors, the present, our peers, our community, our friends, the future, our posterity. It's breath, when we use and invoke and invite the breath intentionally into our bodies, that can actually awaken universal unity consciousness within the body. So that's all you need to do during a sound meditation is breathe and be, and let the vibrations do the rest. We're going to start this meditation with the most powerful sound instrument that I know, the human voice. And we're going to use one of the most powerful sounds that I know, the sacred Hindu bija, Om. Let's see, Om, I have this in my notes here. Chanting Om does not only engage the ear, but also engages the body to listen. And listening is one of the most important pillars in a thriving, healthy relationship, especially the one that we have with ourselves. So get comfortable. Let's take some 3 deep breaths together. And then I'm going to invite you to Om with me. And then we'll move into the rest of our sound meditation. After I'm done, I invite you to sit in the stillness and just be in your body and thank your body for being. Let us start by taking 3 deep breaths together. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Continue to take deep breaths and allow yourself to breathe. I'm DJ Healer. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be holding space with you today. As you are breathing and living, may you be the change you wish to see in the world. Be blessed.